Pedal travel needs to be much shorter. This is not good. Come on, I have a tissue under the brake.
Did somebody change something?
How to drive without ABS? What happened?
I don't have the brake!
This is Team Simucube. We hear you.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, folks around the world. Welcome to Corby in Northamptonshire, and welcome to this, the final round of the ROKiT British Formula 4 Esports Championship. My name is Will Vincent. I'm joined by Connery Maddock and Paul Smith, who will be taking you through the action on commentary here today. But before we do that, let's get ourselves ready for what is going to be an amazing 3 hours worth of racing. We've not only got 2 rounds of the normal championship today, but we also have the All-Stars Championship as well. 11 drivers, 12 drivers maybe pitting themselves against each other, and we're racing here today at Brands Hatch. It's a track that's located about 70 miles away from where we are here today. And Paul, what a place to wrap up the season.
I mean, it's a traditional championship finale for any sort of British motorsport, really. Brands Hatch, it's an iconic venue. It's been used for many decades. It's a challenging track as well with the Grand Prix layout. You've got the twistiness of the Indy circuit, and then you fire off out the back of Surtees Corner, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's just a roller coaster ride of this track. It's wonderful. I love it.
You're going to be talking about the track a little bit more in a few moments' time, but before we do that, let's have a look at the format for today, shall we, Connery? Because we've got, you know, the standard procedures in play, like we are always going to have. We've got these 2 30-minute races that are going to be taking place here today. The first one of these, well, they're going to be set out by lone qualifying. The second race, we get out the ROKiT Wheel of Spinneroony, as we're going to call it here today, because we are going to have between 5 and 9, 10 drivers in the reverse grid. And the reason why we do that is because it means that you can't be strategic about where you finish in race number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some series out there in esports and in the real world as well, where the drivers play a little bit of a game to see who can get that reverse grid spot. If you give them a range, well, there's less shenanigans that could potentially happen there. Typically, so far this season, if you've been tuning in over the past couple of months where we've had this series go on, we've had some pretty small reverse grids. We had a full reverse grid for the first race at Donington, after the first race at Donington, and we've had pretty small ones after that. So we'll have to see whether that's a theme that continues on into the day, or we'll get something slightly different with regards to the random number generator.
Well, the random number generator early on, it gave us an 8 and a 9 when we did our test about an hour before we went on air, which probably is a bad omen. We might get 5 once again. We don't know. We really have absolutely no input into this one at all. But you can see the format, the point scoring, of course. The point is going to be interesting when we talk about penalties in a moment, because license points has been an issue so far. It will be penalty points based upon championship points here today. But before we go much further, if we can just pull up the entry list that we've got here for the events that we've got going on. Again, 2 30-minute races in the main ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. And you can see them behind me. We'll put a full screen up for you as well. So we've got on our first screen, you've got Apex Racing Team, Apex Racing Academy, Munster Rugby Racing, Racing Star, JHR Development, and Team Sport Century Sim Racing. And the thing is, we've We were talking about this as we slowly arrived in Corby at 2-3 o'clock today. You're on a train, me in a car, Paul. Everyone's had some bad rounds.
Yeah.
But some people are getting into what we like to call in, NFL terms, getting into the rhythm at the right part of the season. Peter Berryman is one of those guys.
Yeah, Peter Berryman's very much the driver on form right now. He's got 4 podiums in a row here coming into this final 2 races of the championship. But you look at it, he has had bad rounds earlier on in the season. But you look at Luke McEwen and Josh Ladd at the top of the championship, they've just had that consistency. And it's consistency that gets you championships in motorsport, and it's no different here in esports as well.
You're completely right. And we're going to be talking a lot about consistency and victories, and when we pull up the whole standing situation in a moment's time, we want to talk as well about what do you focus on? Do you focus on the Drivers' Championship? Do you focus on the Team Championship, Connery? Because there's a 5 times difference between winning the Drivers' Championship and winning the Team Championship. But at the same time, as a driver, you always want to have that W next to your name, not just kind of an asterisk next to the team.
Yeah, racing drivers will be racing drivers. They want to go for the win no matter what in that Drivers' Championship. Yes, the Team's Championship is considered the more important championship due to the fact there's more prizes associated with it in this series. However, that's not going to stop the infighting. I get the feeling in amongst the teams, in amongst the drivers for that very top spot. It's doubly interesting because we've got 3 teams in with the fight of the championship at the moment, and the 3 drivers we also have in with the fight in the Drivers' Championship are from those 3 teams.
So there's going to be lots of battling.
There's going to be a whole bunch of battling, and this is why I'm so excited for these races that we have to come.
And that's a good point to start thinking a little bit about penalties as well, because so far this season, we've had race control, which is absolutely amazing. It's been really good to have all season. So thank you so much to Motorsport UK for not only organising this championship, but for making sure that there's a robust penalty structure in place as well. You can see that up on your screen right now. I'm not going to talk you through it because I'm not here to narrate you here today, but it's worth noting that for this final round, licence points are being replaced with deduction in championship points for that driver and their team. That's the important point, Paul. With closed championships both from the drivers and the team side, it is one of those things where you're going to have to start thinking, are you going to go for consistency? Are you going to make that 60-40 move down the inside of someone going for a victory? How hard do you push, and how can you actually get into the heads of other drivers to try and make them make a mistake?
It's a fine balancing act. When you get to the stage of a championship and you're trying to win a championship as a team, I mean, I've competed in championships where fortunately I've been able to win team championships. It's all about getting the best points that you can, but keeping out of trouble at the same time, because you end up with a contentious issue and a bit of a move that's got question marks about it. You're going to be sweating because all these championship, it's post-race penalties, so the results will be provisional tonight. They'll want to just keep it clean to not give themselves a chance of losing out that championship.
And we want to hope that the provisional is a little P rather than a big P. We want to be able to, celebrate with some drivers here today, knowing the fact that they, yes, it's provisional, but they have won the championship, just waiting for the final signatures on the piece of paper, so on and so forth. But as you can always imagine, folks, we do that deliberately to make sure that it is fair racing. Here are the team standings then. They're going to come up on your screen now. Apex Racing Team, Munster Rugby Racing and Apex Racing Academy. Well, that is not much at all. 5 points separating them. And I'm not that great with maths, Connery, but that's a bit of a big jump from P3 to P4.
Yeah, it has been those 3 teams, Apex Racing Team, Munster Rugby Gaming, Apex Racing Academy, that have, for all intents and purposes, dominated the top standings in the season so far. The YRDA Arden getting themselves up there, of course, in no small part due to Ted Bradbury's amazing performance in the previous rounds. That absolutely propelled them further up the order. So there's going to be a slight fight going on there for P4, 5, 6, but of course all eyes are going to be on those top 3 spots at the moment, especially considering how close they are.
Mensah Racing yet to get off the board, and talking to someone earlier on today, they were specifically talking about the fact that Team Fordzilla and Team Fordzilla Hybrid not actually up as high as they would want to be in the championship. So there's some unfinished business going on at the top, the middle and the bottom of your fields here today. So even though you might not have the craziest battles going on out front, don't forget there are battles going on towards the middle and the rear of your field, and of course also into the Drivers' Championship that we're going to show up on your screen right about now. Luke McEwen, 157 points. Josh Ladd, 148. Peter Berriman at 140. So 17 points then, separating these three drivers. And Paul, you talked already about how Berriman is on form right now. McEwen has still a lot to kind of hold on. This is a battle we've seen so much in 2022. Redline, well, not Redline, but you know what I mean. McEwen and Ladd and Berriman, these three and these four drivers going at it over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Pete Berriman, he knows what it takes to win a championship. You know, he's certainly at the highest level. So he's somebody who has that experience behind him. As I say, though, Luke McEwen, an incredibly talented driver, as is Josh Ladd. Let's not deny that, because you know Josh has had a sensational season here, and those two at the top are my favourites. But you write out Pete Berriman at your peril here, because 25 points for a win. If either of those two do not get a points finish in this first race, it swings things right round. Yeah.
You were joking about Murray Walker earlier on, you know, and one of his favourite phrases, anything can happen in F1, in this case F4, and it usually does. And that's the point we're going to be at here today. So let's now have a look, shall we, around this track. And Paul, this Brands Hatch track, you talked about it already, it's made up of two parts. Oh, before we do that, let's have a look at the prizes, shall we? 2,500 for the first place in terms of the teams, 1,500 for second, 1,000 for third. Then you've got a fifth of that for the drivers. But what I'm really interested in, Connor, is actually getting yourself some time in an actual performance simulator for first and second place in the teams, getting yourself some coaching, getting yourself some chassis if you're the winning driver, and also there's going to be this end of year celebration as well going on, which is going to be great to see these drivers invited to, you know, recognise esports as a successful part of British motorsport.
Yeah, this is a continuation on the trends that we've already been seeing, and it's great to see these organisations which are so pivotal, especially in the grassroots of things in real-world motorsports, really getting themselves stuck into sim racing. It's a topic that we've touched on many times over the course of these broadcasts, but it's worth mentioning once again, you know, how important, how pivotal series like these are to give people the opportunity that might not have the funding to do a season of karting or a season of real-life British F4 or things like that, to give them a chance to show their skills on, you know, a decently big stage and potentially maybe get noticed by big sim racing teams, or could be that they get noticed by some real-life teams as well.
True, completely right. Now, we've talked to the prizes. Let's actually talk about this track then. Located just inside Kent, just outside the M25 to the east of London. It is Brands Hatch International. And I'll ask you that same question again now, Paul. You've got the Indy layout, and you said, yeah, you got the older, very narrow Grand Prix layout that kind of follows that as well. So this is one of those tracks where you've got to be able to nail inch manoeuvres. Overtaking can be complicated.
Yeah, it's a difficult place to overtake at. Your favourite places are down Paddock Hill Bend, Druids as well, on this full circuit into Surtees. But here we are then on board, looking at a hot lap of this track. In towards Paddock Hill Bend, head it out to the outside, swing it in, you plunge downhill. The car will be bottoming out at the bottom of the dip there, then uphill braking. You can brake late into Druids because you're nice and uphill there, and then plunge back down again towards Graham Hill Bend. This was reconfigured back in the late 90s with this corner. Run it out wide. I don't think Jonathan Palmer will appreciate that with his grass. Now heading into Surtees now. Onto the brakes again. Turn in left late. Get a late apex because you want to carry that speed out of this corner through this little right-hand kink. It's a nothing corner is that, but then we plunge downhill once again through Pilgrim's Drop in towards Hawthorns then. Fast right-hander, get your apex right, let it run out wide and keep it to left-hand side for Hawthorns, onto Westfield, sorry, should I say, onto the brakes, down through Dingle Down and then up to Sheen Curve. It's a blind apex, you aim it at the sky almost, get the car over to the right-hand side then, onto the brakes, use the camber of this left to hook the car around. Get the car back over to the left-hand side now for the final few corners, through Clearways into the Jim Clark curve. It's a really tricky corner because the track plunges back down away from you, so the car naturally wants to understeer out and then out across the line, and that is a lap of Brands Hatch.
That's a much better way of talking about it than I can. That's why they're commentating on this and I'm not here today. By the way, I just want to say a massive thank you to Noble Chairs who have provided us these ultra comfy chairs here today. So if you want one of these, we've actually got a competition going on. All you need to do is wherever you're watching this video, if you're watching it live, you can do so by going to the description, clicking the link. You've got until 9 AM UTC on Monday the 5th of December to enter, and you can win one of these worth about £400. And I have to say, Connery, they are rather comfy.
I have not experienced lumbar support quite like this, at least at my chair at home. So if Noble Chairs are listening, then just give me a call because I do want one.
I'd love a nice Christmas present this year, you know. But yeah, with that, what we want to say at this time is I'm going to say thank you to Paul. I'm going to say thank you to Connery. They are going to go head themselves into the commentary studio. It's not far away, but they just got to get a jog on in a moment. So thank you very much to Connery. Thank you very much to Paul. They will be the next voices that you hear in your ears after me. But what I want to say at this point is we are, 3.5 minutes, just over 3.5 minutes now away from the start of qualifying for this, the first of our 2 races here today. So we're at Brands Hatch International. Paul's already talked about this racetrack. He's talked about the elevation changes. He's talked about the speed. We've talked about how narrow it is. We set the scene already for you in terms of the championship, both teams and drivers. It is so close. 5 points in the team championship right now, and it's not that much more in terms of the drivers championship. So this really is championship weekend in this Esports Championship. Want to say a very quick thank you to our sponsors, ROKiT, to Simucube, to Base Performance Systems, VRRC, and as I mentioned already, to Noble Chairs. So we are now at the point where the drivers are trying to do the fastest lap of their evening, because where they qualify now is where they start for this race. Where they finish this race is where they are going to potentially start for the second race after we get the ROKiT spinning wheel coming up. So with that, I would like to say thank you very much for checking out the first part of this broadcast. It's time to go into race commentary mode now. Paul Matthew Smith on the broadcast, but first, Connery Maddock.
Primed and ready for the action that's about to get up onto our screens in just a couple of moments. We've got ourselves going to get ourselves in towards the qualifying session. This is going to be an absolutely crucial qualifying session for these drivers here today. It's probably going to be one of the most pressure-filled qualifying sessions that they potentially would have ever had to take part in. And, well, at least in the provisional order at the moment, we've got ourselves drivers largely actually set themselves their times already. But thank you very much there. Well, we're in towards qualifying. And, well, we've got about 2 minutes of this one remaining. We've got Peter Berryman on the provisional pole position at the moment. Jamie Fluke up there as well with Alexander Spetz, our first driver that's going to be on the second row of the starting grid. But so this is looking like a very positive qualifying session for the Apex Racing team. They've really gotten themselves out of the blocks well. They've gotten themselves a front row lockout at the moment. But the thing is, Monster Rugby Gaming are right behind them.
Yeah, they certainly are, and this is going to be crucial for these teams here to be able to see what is going on with their opportunities to be able to get themselves into the best possible position that they can be for this finale of the opening race, should I say, of the finale. But you look at those times, they're ever so close. I mean, Berryman and Fluke just 9/1000ths of a second on the qualifying there between them. But you look at that Alexander Spetz though, right behind them, 300ths of a second behind. So it's really close between those drivers. Josh Ladd, he's thereabout. Crucially, he's ahead of Luke McEwen though, is Josh. So basically that means that he will be able to keep one of his championship rivals in check. But in terms of Pete Berryman though, he's in the driving seat.
Yep, he absolutely is here in this situation, and like I said, just about actually 100th of a second ahead of his teammate Jamie Fluke. That's how close it was between the front two, and it is such a tight margin inside the front four, all covered by 700ths of a second here in qualifying. So Apex Racing Team and Monster Rugby Gaming really going at it. And of course, you got the Academy drivers out there as well for Apex. You got Luke McEwen, Stanley Deslandes. So haven't we got basically the front three teams occupying the front three rows of the starting grid?
Yes, we do.
That's a recipe for fun, isn't it?
Oh, this is fantastic. This is exactly what we want here in this race, and it's going to give us some absolute fireworks out there today, and this is what I'm looking forward to.
Here we go then. Here's the starting grid for race one of the finale here of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. It's Pierre Berryman on pole position with JB Fluke on the front row, as well as an Apex Racing Team front row lockout. Then you've got Monster Rugby Gaming's Alex Spetz and Josh Ladd comprising of row 2. And then row 3, you've got the Apex Racing Academy drivers of Luke McEwen and Stanley Deslandes. Looking further back, you got Ted Bradbury starting P7, so best of the rest as far as the championship contenders are concerned. Then you got Deacon Fairclough starting in P8, with Ryan McAuliffe in P9, with Matt Caruana in P10. Then you got Peo Pev starting in P11 with Dion Gowda in P12 here today. Ollie Davis will start in P13 with Joseph Floke in 14th. Ethan Critchley will start 15th with Pete Harrod in 16th. Then you've got Sergio Fitzpatrick in P17 with Ruben Stanislaus in P18. Monica Bolton Ramos and Brie Widener will comprise the final row of the starting grid here today for race number 1. But of course, by the time race 2 rolls around, that could indeed be all shaken up. Reverse grid factoring into that one, of course. But we've got to get this race out of the way with first, as the drivers slowly but steadily take themselves to the starting grid here. It's relatively short run in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Not a lot of opportunity for these drivers to get themselves strung out single file.
And traditionally around here, the best place to start is actually in second place, not in pole position, because you've got a steeper uphill here. So you want to keep an eye on that at the start of this race. It's well known at Brands Hatch for that being an issue for the pole sitter here.
If you're Monster Rugby Gaming, you're either Alexander Spetz or Josh Ladd. You need to go all-out attack here on these initial couple of laps. You can't afford to let those Apex Racing Team cars get away ahead of you. But we're green flag here at Brands Hatch for race 1 of the finale here in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. The Apex Racing Team cars getting themselves P1, P2 into their attack, and already comes Alexander Spetz as we'll get ourselves fanned out once again down in towards Druids as Alexander Spetz looking around the outside of Jamie Fluke in towards Druids. Spetz not going to make any progress around the outside there as they get strung out single file into Graham Hill Bend for the first time. No dramas at the front, dramas in the mid-pack though, as Fairclough is off, Pev is off, McAuliffe is also off, and it's another incident for what has been a torrid season so far for Fairclough as we see Josh Ladd dropping down the order.
Yeah, so it's not a best of starts for Josh here in the opening of this race. Luke McEwen up into 4th place, and that's not really what Josh would have wanted to try and challenge Luke in the championship here, but never write him off here because Stanley DeSantis right now is trying his best to slow him down, but it's not worked, and DeSantis now dropping down the order.
Yep, indeed. So not the ideal situation here on the first lap of things. There's the onboard with the number 7 of Stanley Deslandes. He's going to try and put in his best effort to try and help get that Academy car up in towards P1 in terms of the point session by the end of the day. But it's looking like a very big task for them at the moment because Deslandes, he can't afford to lose these positions so easily. He needs to be pressing forwards. He needs to get up there with his teammate Luke McEwen and try and make gains on both the on Alexander Spetz from Monster Rugby Gaming, and potentially get mixed in with their sister cars in front. Oh, someone's gone out very, very wide. I believe that was Caruana out of Paddock Hill Bend out into the gravel, which you can do through there. It's not wise though.
It's not ideal, but you can if you hit it wrong. That gravel, it can fire you across the track as well. So you've got to be careful with that, not go too far wide. We won't get into my favourite subject of track limits, but still, look at him. Deslandes now, he's actually racing from the Apex Racing Team facility tonight for the first time. So he's in unfamiliar surroundings. He's not got his own equipment. He's somewhere else, and that can have an effect on drivers not feeling that comfort zone of using their own equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a thing. Of course, you know, it's more prevalent when we get to do live events with all the drivers in one place, perhaps, like you said, using a rig they're not familiar with. So That's at least what Stanley Deslandis has to deal with at the moment. We have a look back towards the front of the field, though, because it is the duo of Apex Racing Team P1, P2, Berryman and Fluke in that order. Spets keeping with them, however, and that is so important for Munster Rugby Gaming, that they have at least one driver here at the front that can cause a little bit of concern for these Apex Racing Team drivers. They're not running away for the hills at the very front of the field, which I'm sure they plan to do. They have company, and let's see what Spets can do from here, because his teammate Josh Ladd lost the position off of that start and is about a second behind these guys at the moment. If he can mix it in at the front here, potentially he might also sort of second-handedly bring his teammate back into it as well.
I mean, it's absolutely perfect for Apex Racing Team right now in terms of the Teams Championship. They're loving this. Just being 1-2 up the front. Jamie Fluke playing rear gunner for Pete Berryman. Spets' last lap was actually quicker by about 1/10 of a second compared to the front two, so he's using that slipstream in front of him just to help him pull him forward towards them. Meanwhile, they're actually dropping Luke McEwen behind, so Luke's going to be careful with this, because Pete Berryman, 17 points, don't forget, at the start of this evening. He was behind in terms of the championship. He's getting 25 right now. Luke, he's dropping back a little bit in that championship fight. So yes, they may run under the same Apex banner, but right now in this race, they're in different teams and they want to win.
It's a running joke between me and Peter on some other broadcasts that they run under the same gazebo, or other awning of your choice, as the case may be. But we've got a couple of minutes of this race under our belt already. There's the front of the field continuing their way in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Spets really not giving Jamie Fluke a lot of room to breathe here. He's looking for that good run coming out of the corner. Looks like Fluke going immediately defensive to the inside, because Spets has found the run on the outside in towards Druids, but it's so tough to make a pass on the outside there. That car on the inside has so much of an advantage. But that was a shot across the bow there for Spets, and he's definitely not afraid of getting up in Fluke's face.
Absolutely not. And again, last lap was quicker than Fluke. Wasn't quicker than Berryman though, so Spets has got the pace, and now Luke McEwen is starting to catch up to these two, because they've been just slightly tripping over each other and just slowing each other down. That's allowing McEwen, Ladd, Bradbury, Deslandis to all come up behind him, and that's a wild card for me, is Ted Bradbury. That could be a real wild card in this championship battle.
I had him down in my notebook as a potential spoiler of this one. A driver that's not in the championship getting involved in the championship. Of course, he has every single right to do so. He's racing in the same race as everyone else, but I bet the teams competing for the championship would rather he not get involved, but they can't influence him whatsoever. As we're looking a little bit further down the line here, this is in and around Luke McEwen, who's getting pressured a whole bunch by Josh Ladd, who, remember, lost that spot off the start to Luke McEwen. So if Ladd is able to make this pass happen, it's just a reversal and a mirror of what's going on the starting grid. But look, we've had a brief move to the inside. Oh, Fluke and Spets come together. Fluke out in towards the gravel, and it's going to cause a big shuffle further forwards as well. Fluke spinning that car back around. That is crucial.
That is big. Big with a capital B. My goodness, that's just turned things around. Berryman now, he wants to try and run away at the front. He wants to try and get a gap to Alex Spets right now. Spets, has he got any damage to his car? That's going to be a key thing for us, because even just the slightest of damage. Meanwhile, look at Josh Ladd. He's seeing in keen right now. He's seeing his teammate getting involved here, and he wants a piece of the action now.
Indeed, towards the outside into these very fast right-handers, though. Here's a replay of the incident. Too close for comfort, didn't quite get a good view of it to try and well, not so much apportion blame, but to get ourselves a little bit of a better perspective of that run. Remember, stewards will be looking at things after the race here, and we don't apply license points anymore. They will be championship point penalties. However, championship point penalties don't recover the points that Apex would have lost in that sort of incident.
Yeah, and that's, here we go, here's a look from above. So he's down the inside, he's got a wheel alongside. It's wheel-to-wheel contact, that's a tricky one. I'm glad I'm not in the steward's booth tonight, that's for sure. But look at this now. Ah, here we go. Ted Bradbury. We said he was going to be a bit of a wild card, and here he comes. Josh Ladd, he was thinking about closing the door, thought better of it though.
Yep, and now Bradbury has the inside for Druids. Got to be careful not to wash out in the middle of the corner and make contact with the car on the outside, but Bradbury has been able to get himself through on Josh Ladd there. So Bradbury very much getting stuck in, and look at the very back of this train. You have Stan Deslanders looking to try and get past again past the lad who just lost the position, so he's already on the back foot. Sometimes these situations compound. You lose one position, you start losing more positions. But look at this bump drafting on the way down through Pilgrim's Drop now between Lad and Bradbury. Lad peeking to the inside slightly in towards Hawthorns, but not going to commit to the move whatsoever, although Bradbury's out into the grass on the exit of the corner, and there's Lad down the inside. Here comes Deslanders as well to try and overtake a stricken Bradbury, but Bradbury keeps himself ahead for now.
I think Deslanders actually backed out of that one and thought better of it. I don't know why. You were alongside him there, Stanley. You had the run, almost freight training Bradbury down the order there, but instead keeping themselves in position. But Berryman, he hasn't been able to shake Spets at the front. They've got about a second between them and Luke McEwen right now. So those two, it's still quite tense up there at the front. So yeah, definitely, it's really tense in terms of championships because, yeah, you're absolutely right to say earlier, it's all about teams championship for a few of these drivers. Jamie Fluke, where is he right now? He's in 11th place. He's got a big gap as well, 5.5 seconds up to 10th. So he's got a lot of work to do. But they've got to remember, there's still 21 minutes remaining in this race. They've been driving it like it's the last 5 minutes of this championship.
And to be honest, I've been commentating like it's the last 10 minutes, let's be fair. But yeah, we still got a decent chunk of this race to go when we have another race after this one as well, once we get the All-Stars event over and done with. We're riding on board with Stanley Deslandis in the 7 Academy car, Apex Academy car at the moment. 6th place as he's been embroiled in these battles with not only Josh Ladd further down the line, but also Ted Bradbury as well. This is where the main portion of the action has been. And I'm seeing on the timing screen now, Alex Betts continuing to apply the pressure to Peter Berryman. So he's wanting to go to the race lead as well, but he can't have a repeat of what happened to Fluke.
Yeah, can't, absolutely not. And Munster Rugby Gaming, I mean, welcome to the world of sim racing, because this is absolutely fantastic. Your boys are doing good right now up there, 2nd and 4th place, and look at Spets, look at the car just coming up behind Berryman there. He is absolutely on form here. Berryman immediately taking that inside line. You can do that at Druids, that's not a problem. It's getting the important run out of Surtees. That's where you're going to see. If Spets is clever about this, he'll try and set up Berryman. Here we are. He's going to set him up for a wide entry, get the speed out the corner. Oh, Berryman's going late. My goodness, this is close.
Oh, the back end's wanting to step out every single moment of that in towards Surtees there. So the car very, very loose indeed for Spets. It sort of ruins his chance slightly as he wasn't able to get the traction through and out of the corner to be able to challenge coming down the back straight and in towards Pilgrim's Drop. And the bigger concern perhaps for Spets at the moment is that Luke McEwen is closing in on him from behind. This is interesting, seeing Alex Spets so far up, fighting for these race wins. We've typically seen him in previous races basically play second fiddle to Josh Ladd as part of that Munster Rugby Gaming team. So he's the one that's decided to step up here. Perhaps a little bit too much in the case of that incident with Fluke, but of course investigated after the event.
It certainly is, but I tell you what, he's doing a sensational job, and Munster Rugby Gaming, they haven't got a plan, and it would have basically been whoever's the closest at the front, put the pressure on Apex Racing Team. You need to keep that pressure on, and right now they're scoring themselves some good points for the 2nd and 4th place. Berryman, 1st place, 25 points for him. That's nice in terms of his championship. McEwen 3rd place, Josh Ladd 4th place. The individual drivers championship, it's just swings and roundabouts. It's who's going to finish where, and it's absolutely tremendous to watch this, and it's been tremendous all season, to be fair.
Yep, it really, really has. It's definitely been one of the best seasons of sim racing that I've commentated on, and well, we've got this race, the rest of this race, and one more to go to try and cap it all up. But Spets is again looking to the outside and towards Hawthorns. Here's the view from Luke McEwen, who's 3rd in line. Let's see if he's able to stick his nose in anywhere as these guys ahead, eventually decide to fight. But they've got to be so careful with the track limits here. There's not a lot of room to run wide through that middle sector. We saw Ted Bradbury find that out towards the very start of the race. You dip 2 tyres in the grass in iRacing, it could be a death sentence.
It certainly can, but I'll tell you what, if you're Luke McEwen right now, you're actually in a good place. 3rd place is a good place for him in terms of his individual championship. The team's soaring some good points as well, with him and his teammate down at 3rd and 6th place. Although, lad, looking a little bit keen now, getting in the mirrors, and this is part of the plan. You try and put the other driver off, but lads run wide. Bradbury says, thank you very much. I'm just going for a nice Friday evening drive here.
Yeah, that's the trouble of trying to send it to the inside through Paddock Hill Bend, because if you overcommit to it, well, that is a very inviting gravel trap on the outside of the corner, and you have to lift a whole bunch out of it, maybe even tap the brakes if you want to try to avoid it. So that's potentially something Josh Ladd will never do again, perhaps in the same way, if he gets another opportunity. So down to P5 he goes. Of course, that takes a little bit of a hit in terms of Munster Rugby Gaming's points tally coming out of this one. As you saw Luke McEwen there just briefly go to driver's right-hand side of the circuit, just to sort of psychologically say you're not passing down into here.
Yeah, as we see Bradbury now in his setup, and quite a reclined setup as well for him. Must be more comfortable for him to sit in that more reclined position. But yeah, you can see the pressure that he's putting on. Look, McEwen, and this is the thing, Bradbury's got nothing to lose here.
Yeah.
It's a potential podium for him. That's what he wants.
Well, for YRDA Arden, they are close in the championship,
Yeah.
4th place. With other teams, Kimura Performance, you got Team Flotilla Hybrid there, GHR Developments also on the outside looking in as well. So it is important that Bradbury gets some good points finish here, a good points finish here. However, we know Bradbury. He wants to get stuck inside those podium positions. At Silverstone, he got himself a race win, and he also got himself a 2nd place as well. And even that 2nd place could have very easily been a race win due to the little battle that they had at the end of the final lap.
Yeah, and his tremendous pace there at Silverstone last time out. It's a different track though, different style of racing, and it's still high-paced, high-speed stuff here for these drivers. So look at that, the first 6 drivers covered. What's that, 1.5 seconds between them. I'm looking further down at Jamie Fluke. He has been gaining on 10th place as well, just to keep a track of him for Apex Racing Team. He needs to get into 10th place to get his team an extra point in terms of the team's championship. So he'll be pushing on as hard as he can coming up to the halfway point of the race.
Yep, indeed. 15 minutes to go here in race number 1. It is Peter Berryman that leads from Alex Spetz, from Luke McEwen. That's your top 3, but we've basically got the top 6 inside of the front train at the moment. So they could come across the line theoretically in any configuration at the moment, especially with a couple of looks that we've had here and there, a couple of attempts at passes. It's not the easiest circuit to try and make overtakes here, is Brands Hatch. It's completely different in that respect to what we saw at Silverstone, where it's so easy to get the draft, so easy to send it down the inside. Here, you're going to have to construct your passes a little bit better. You're going to have to try and punish mistakes a little bit better. Yeah,
patience. That's a big word around this track, is patience. You've got to show it. And right now, Luke McEwen is just doing exactly what he needs to do. You can see him there, just focused. There's no emotion on the face. It's just he's got a job to do, and he is doing it. And you can see just keeping an eye on everything. He's been looking around at different screens. Ladd and Bradbury, I could tell you, I think that's what he'll have been looking at, is his mirrors, because those two have been switching places again. Ladd able to get ahead of Bradbury again.
Yeah, so this has been a fantastic little fight here at the very back of this leading train. Just to give you a little bit of an update of what's been going on elsewhere. In terms of the final points paying position, that's where Ollie Davis currently resides there in that number 63 car. Jamie Fluke, a couple of seconds behind him. So maybe if Fluke can have a decent final 13 minutes here, get himself inside the points, every single point may matter in this championship. That's how close it is. Less than 10 points covering the top 3 teams coming in today, and it's it could change just by that single point. So Jamie Fluke does need to press on here and try and get himself secured in the points. We've got Serge Fitzpatrick in P12 for Prismatic. We've got Pete Harrod there for in the number 21 in P13 here at the moment. So that's going to be an interesting thing there for P12, considering they look relatively close on circuit, at least in terms of the timing. But we continue with the focus towards the very front of the train, because we've got Luke McEwen looking down the inside of Spets. You saw how unstable that car was at the inside. That's how hard he sent it. The car wasn't complying.
I think they may have just avoided making end plate contact there. It looks fine from our end, does Luke McEwen's car, but just even the slightest of damage to that front wing and he'll be losing a few kilometres an hour top speed, and that would bring Josh Ladd in. And in fact, him making that move is bringing Josh Ladd in to this this battle right now. So he's gone from attack, he's now having to think about defence here. But I was just thinking, whilst you were talking there, Connery, every time we've been doing commentary this year, we always seem to come down to the championship finale, and it comes down to a point.
Yeah, we seem to have a little bit of a habit with
yes.
that, don't we? Yeah. Maybe it's not history repeating itself here, but yeah, that's the exact point. And of course, you know, all the incidents that happen over the course of the race will be reviewed after the race, but not immediately after the race. It's in the days after the race to allow the protests and the appeals to come in as well. You know, all the wonderful things that we love to see in the real world also applying to sim racing, as it turns out here. So we will be calling the points as they come across the line here at the moment.
Oh.
Whether or not that changes a little bit later on. What's happened to Saoirse Fitzpatrick? Well, she's embroiled in this fight here in the mid-pack, just outside of the top 10. That's Ryan McKelliff going side by side with Ethan Critchley. Someone's off ahead. Didn't quite see who that one was. It might be one of the Racing Star cars. Might have been Fairclough, who is actually a lap down at the moment.
Deegan's retired.
Deegan has now taken the tow back towards the pit lane and has retired. But this is a great little fight here going on for P12. Harrod currently leads it from McKelliff. And then Ethan Critchley and Saoirse Fitzpatrick losing out in terms of that situation there. And looks like she might have a bit of damage there with the car not really playing ball on the outside of Surtees there.
Yeah, Pete Harrod, by the way, used to do drifting for fun, so I don't think that that's appropriate for this car, and he'll be trying to keep it on the straight and narrow here. But this is, as you say, a good little tussle here at Ryan right now. He is in the middle of that sandwich of Pete Harrod and Ethan Critchley together. But look at this, back up to the front then, draws our attention. 0.3 of a second covering the first two places. It's absolutely neck and neck between those two. Luke McEwen, who I do believe has actually got the fastest lap of the race as well, he's in third place. This is just going to go on and on and on, and it's tremendous. I love it. Top six, you could throw a tarpaulin over them. Not quite a blanket, but a tarpaulin certainly.
Have we broken out the thesaurus here? We've got gazebo, we've got tarpaulin. I don't know where you've hidden it, it's not on the desk here. But less than 10 minutes left to go then. Watching Josh Ladd apply the pressure. A whole bunch of pressure onto the back of Luke McEwen here at the moment. Luke, of course, you know, he's had a good run of things so far here in the championship. He's especially early on in the season where he was able to get those race wins, those podiums on the board. Recently, it's not been as great for Luke McEwen, but in terms of a podium finish here in race one, that's certainly getting himself back on track in terms of not only the Drivers' Championship, but of course keeping the Apex Academy team in it with regards to the team's championship. We're riding on board with Josh Ladd for Munster Rugby Gaming here at the moment, ignoring any penalties that might be hanging over our head. This race one, positive for Munster Rugby Gaming at the moment, but lads, be careful about that.
I mean, you can push those limits and push them to the extreme, but you've got to be careful. There is an instant limit to this race as well, don't forget. So, yeah, you've got to play it careful. Like the exit of Graham Hill Bend, if you go too far wide, you'll pick yourself up an instant point, and that will drop you a further chance of getting a penalty, of course, in terms of any sort of drive-through. But these three, Pete Berriman's pulled away slightly, so Spets didn't quite get as good a run through the Surtees corner, and that allowed Luke McEwen to catch up here.
Yeah, but is there any way through? That's the question here. It's these drivers have been... Just as I say that, Spets decides to dip 2 tyres into the grass on the exit there, so maybe I shouldn't speak too soon with saying these drivers have been pretty consistent and mistake-free at the very front. We've had a couple of moments here and there, just like the one we saw. Here's the battle for P12 going on between Ryan McKelliff and this is going to be Pete Harrod as well, down through Pilgrim's Crop and in towards Hawthorns. McKelliff getting himself ahead for now. These aren't for points-paying positions, admittedly, but it's still good to see these fights going on.
Absolutely. And it's
also, starting position for race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on there, giving you that starting position. Look at the run that McEwen got there. Going defensive is Spets in towards Druids Bend. McEwen's got to be careful here, though, because of Josh Ladd. He could have maybe got a look down the inside into Druids. Not this time, though.
Yeah. Oh, this is all getting a little bit too close for comfort. Look at the run that Josh Ladd has got on McEwen in towards Surtees. We've got ourselves, is that a bit of lap traffic ahead of them? I think it might be in this situation.
Berryman driving away.
Oh, is that Berryman running away? Oof. He took a very big wide line through Surtees there, so you can understand my confusion. Here's the move being made by McEwen on the Munster Rugby Gaming car in front of Spets, but it's opened him up. It's made him vulnerable down the inside of Hawthorns. Ladd has stuck the nose down the inside there. Half a car overlap becomes a full car overlap. Are they clear on the exit, though? Yes, they are. Ladd has gotten himself through on the Apex Racing Academy driver, and now he has his own teammate ahead of him to deal with.
That was perfect team play there from Alex Spets. Absolutely brilliantly positioned his car to force Luke McEwen offline there. That gave Ladd that opportunity down the inside and then secured it into Westfield. Brilliant stuff between the two teammates. The problem is now in terms of a team championship, the team managers will be down their ears going, stay in position now. We cannot lose those positions. But Ladd will be thinking, come on, Alex, move over, let me pass.
And Peter's hoping that Luke gets himself back involved with the Munster Rugby Gaming cars, even though they're two different teams, they are sister teams, they're under the same roof. So that's the situation there. And of course, with McEwen in 4th place, with Deslandis in 6th place, there's okay points here. Oh boy! Stanley Deslandis getting all sorts of out of shape out of Graham Hill Bend. And, well, Bradbury keeps himself ahead in 5th place for now. But here comes, is there going to be an orchestrated swap here between Alex Spets and Josh Ladd? Because, of course, Josh Ladd is a competitor in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. But can they do this cleanly? Can they do this without McEwen sticking his nose in here? They've done it to perfection here for the moment. Oh, they've got to be so careful on the entry there, though.
I tell you what, McEwen, he just didn't quite get the run, did he? And he just didn't get alongside, and that just allowed Spets to stay ahead. And McEwen almost making contact with the gearbox of the car in front. This is so close. They're talking millimetres between them. Meanwhile, Pete Berryman, 2.1 seconds now in the lead. He is running away at the front. He's feeling nice and relaxed now being up there. This lot, anything could happen yet.
Berryman's just said bye-bye to the rest of the field. That you guys fight it out for P2. I don't really care. I'm just going to go ahead and potentially win this race after 5 minutes. But in towards Druids now, here's one of the danger zones, of course, the heaviest braking zone on this circuit. But everyone is able to get through there relatively unscathed at the moment. But look at how compact this train is at the moment. Absolutely nose to tail. I'm still wondering when Bradbury will decide to stick his nose, sticking the nose down the inside. That was Luke McEwen with a little, big look down the inside of Surtees, but that move 99% of the time generally isn't on, and all it does is ruin your run through in towards Pilgrim's drop, and now we get Bradbury and now we get Deslandis involved.
I think it's about 6 points difference between 2nd and 4th place in the championship. So there were 9 points difference between them coming into this race. So it's getting nice and tight at the front of the field of Berryman. 17 points coming in behind the leader of the championship, Luke McEwen. He is getting a chunk of points there. So things are getting really, really tense and tight at the front. Josh Ladd all over the curb there, getting the car a little bit loose, but keeping it nice and safe for the time being. Spets now doing the perfect job. I think Spets is one of the drivers of this first race. Maybe not with what happened between him and Jamie Fluke. That's a little bit question mark over that. But the rest of this race, he has been absolutely perfect in terms of helping the team.
Yep, he has. And with Munster Rugby Gaming, that swap was perfectly orchestrated. And it's not easy to do that when you have a car directly behind you looking to try and get involved, try and mess up your orchestrated swaps, your multi-21 moments, shall we say. but Monster Rugby Gaming were able to do that in pretty clean fashion, all things considered as well. I personally, if I was team boss, I would say hold positions, don't swap it, the guy's too close behind. But they were brave enough to make that call and to swap Lad and Spets around, even though there was a huge amount of pressure coming in from behind. That is a very admirable and very brave decision.
Monster Rugby Gaming, they want both championships, don't
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
do.
And also, you know, this helps because obviously if Alex Spets gets himself penalty points here, that will not, you know, with that swap, Lad getting ahead and getting second place points, we'll sort of minimise the loss a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been keeping an eye further down as well on the recovery of Jamie Fluke. He's up to 9th place, but he's 5.5 seconds behind, 2.5 minutes late. Left. I mean, basically, Fluke is going to be hoping for quite a big reverse grid.
Yes, absolutely. Top 10 reverse grid, ideally, for Fluke. Or, well, top 9. There he goes. Getting himself on provisional, on pole position. We've got a battle for the final points paying position there as well. Pev and Ollie Davis just had a little bit of a swap around there down in 10th place for the moment as we watch the leading group circle their way around here. Well, I say leading group, Peter Berryman's off into the sunset. So of the P2 group here at the moment, led by Josh Ladd with his teammate directly behind him. So Ladd can potentially relax a little bit here. You can't relax too much. You can't get complacent, especially in a race like this. Because that's, again, when the stakes start to set in. So you got to keep your head in the game and go for this final 2 minutes here, plus whatever time we have left after the time expires to complete the lap. You got to keep your head in the game. Luke McEwen, though, what are the options from this point?
I think right now for Luke, it's a case of unless an obvious move comes in front of him in the next minute and a half, I think you sit in 4th place, get the points in the bank for that 4th place, because don't forget, reverse grid, wherever it is, that top 5 finish, wherever they finish, they will start, you know, reverse grid wise, so he'll be starting ahead of those drivers, don't forget. Yeah. So it gives him that advantage going into that second race. The pressure, though, the pressure of leading coming into a championship finale when it's a series as big as this must be intense coming into this one. And yeah, certainly Josh is doing everything he can to try and upset things for Luke McEwen.
Yeah, he was 9 points behind Luke McEwen coming into today, and a defensive move or defensive line being run there by Alex Spets, excuse me. As McEwen was looking particularly threatening there in towards Druids. But we're coming towards the very, very end of this race one here at the moment. And we can talk about the guy at the very front, Peter Berryman. What else can we say? He kept himself out of trouble. Guys started fighting behind him, ran for the hills. You know, that's a simpler story that you'll be told all day.
Absolutely, and I mean, we're definitely on the final lap here as that clock ticks down. Yeah, Pete Berryman, he's done exactly what he needed to do here. Get away at the front. He would have preferred to have had his teammate Jamie Fluke right behind him with him. Okay, it's not worked out perfectly that way, but still, what a great way to start off this evening for Peter.
There we go then, there's the confirmation of the final lap. Time has expired. Next flag that Peter Berryman will see coming across the start-finish line will be the checkered flag. There's the grouping for P2. There's Peter Berryman heading his way towards the line, continuing on his run of form late on in the season. He takes the race win for race 1 here at Brands Hatch in our finale. But it's the Monster Rugby Gaming drivers of Josh Ladd and Alex Spets which will take the lion's share of the points here coming out of this particular event. A great race for Peter Berryman. A good race, an amazing race for the Monster Rugby Gaming cars, of course, pending steward's review due to that incident. We're having a look back at the final points-paying position. Ollie Davis is looking like he's going to come out of the clock curve to take that final points-paying position. 1 point to his name, a little bit of a drag race to the line with Peo Pev, but all is said and done there. We're waiting for the rest of the runners now to head their way across the line. What a first race we have had here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. Of course, this finale brought to you by Noble Chairs. We're basically all done here for race number 1. So it sounds like it's about time to send it back to Mr. Will Vincent in the studio.
then at the results after 22 laps worth of racing. And it's just under 2 seconds then between Pete Berryman and Josh Ladd in terms of the victory. But that was a very different story a little bit earlier on. Peter Berryman had a lot of very close action earlier on, and he's able to get the victory by 1.9 seconds over Josh Ladd. Alex built a further couple of attempts for a second back. Luke McEwen coming home in 4th place. Ted Bradbury rounding out your top 5. And the rest of those results coming up on your screen. You can see that actually the fastest lap of the day done by Luke McEwen on lap number 21 of the race. But what an exciting action we had going on up and down the field. And it's been kind of backwards and forwards over the course of this race. It was Peter Berryman who's been leading pretty much since the absolute get-go. Munster Rugby Gaming, well, they get a 2-3. That's really important in terms of the team championship. Luke McEwen getting 4th place with 6th place as well for his teammates, Tanya Deslanders. That's useful for them in terms of the team championship. The difficult part, really, for Apex Racing Team was that Jamie Fluke only finished in 9th place overall. So that's a look at the top 10 of your results. The rest of those will cycle through on your screen right about now. But what we've also got to do in a moment is quite possibly the favourite part of the actual evening. That'll be to do the spinning wheel, which we're going to do in just one moment's time whilst the rest of these results will finish through on your screen. Then after that, we're going to have a chat with your race winner, because he's only literally downstairs from where I am right now. He is literally underneath my feet, Pete Berryman. He's going to come up and he's going to have a chat with us in a couple of moments time. So interesting to note, we had a total of 18 finishers in total. 16 of them were on the lead lap, and let's get ourselves ready then to do the best part of the evening. This is the F4 Esports British Championship ROKiT spinning wheel, and this will be to determine exactly how many drivers will be inverted for the second of our races, which will take place, don't forget, not now, but after you've had our All-Stars competition later on. And no, it was close. We might have had another number 5, but no, we're going to have 8 drivers inverted. So we had an 8 come up on our test earlier on today. We have another number 8 here. Don't worry, these are not predetermined. We had a 9 and a 7 also, but it will be a total of 8 drivers then that'll be inverted for the second of our races. And I can see him in the background. He's going to run up on stage to join me. Pete Berryman, who came home with the race victory here. Well, that's 30 minutes of hard racing done. You've got another 30 minutes to come. You're starting in P number 8. Talk us about the victory first. It is very tough at certain parts of that race.
Yeah, for sure. Start of the race was pretty tough. Struggled with the balance a bit with the car, so confidence was a bit low, so couldn't really push it too much. So yeah, ended up under a bit of pressure, but obviously it's quite easy to defend at this circuit, so I wasn't too stressed. But eventually got into a bit of a rhythm, balance sort of came back. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to get pole, get the win, but ultimately with Jamie getting shunted off, it kind of feels like it's maybe for nothing. But yeah, we need to see what the score is in that. I think the championship points are still almost maybe level, somewhere around there, so still plenty to fight for. But yeah, obviously that's a lot of points that Jamie got taken away from him, essentially. Yeah,
I was going to say 9th place for Jamie. How does that impact your theory going into this last race in terms of the team versus the Drivers' Championship?
I think the teams has obviously got to take, precedent there. Secondary, obviously the Drivers' Championship, I think it's, obviously for me, it's closed up quite a bit myself, but yeah, Drivers' Championship is secondary, I think, going into this race. Just try and get ahead of the Munster Rugby guys, and yeah, hopefully that's enough.
You're going to have to pass 2 of the biggest competitors that you have in the championship in this next race, with the whole situation of course, them being P2 and P3. Have you got any tactics, anything in mind as to what you can do? Especially the fact that actually your teammate Jamie is going to be right behind you on the starting grid. Is there a way that you can use each other to help yourself move through the field?
I think it'll be tough. Obviously, like I said before, it's quite easy to defend. It's quite a narrow track with, obviously, there's grass on the outside. So, if you get it wrong, it usually goes very, very wrong. So, I don't really think there's any tactics we can necessarily do. Yeah, it's a bit of an uphill battle, but yeah, just give it our best shot and hopefully it's enough.
And a bit like the Super Bowl, you get a bit of a longer break this time compared to normal. What are you going to do with the extra time that you've got between race 1 and race 2 to calm down, refresh, regenerate, etc.?
Exactly that. Probably a bit of refreshing drinks, something cold, maybe a bit of food as well, but not really too much otherwise to do in between.
Well, thank you very much, Pete Merriman. Great to talk to you. We've got another driver, do we? Thank you very much, Pete. Going to bring in our second driver. Come on, talk us about your race. I love the Arsenal shorts, by the way. I used to be an Arsenal fan myself. Talk us through the race. Talk us through the day that you've had so far.
Well, for me overall, it was quite a tough race. I was just sat in the train behind Ted and the Munster Rugby guys. Not much I could do. Didn't quite have the pace to get right on their bumper, and I had quite a lot of off tracks, so I didn't really want to risk anything to cause an incident or either just get a drive through. So I just had to stay where I was and hopefully can fight back better in the second race.
The fact that the license points become deductions from championships points for this final set of the championship rounds, how does that change your mindset as to how aggressive you can be and to how many opportunities you can take compared to others?
You just got to take all the opportunities that you can, but you can't risk anything because we are all in the top 3 for the championship. There's not like anyone can fight us to get third, but we really just want to be winning that championship, so just taking it easy. Just the championship's so close, every little license point could just affect the whole thing. I think all of us are split between 5 points now, so every point matters and we just got to take what we can do.
And same question I asked Pete earlier on. You've got a longer break now compared to what you have normally in these races. How are you going to use that extra time to prepare? And also, now that you're going to be slightly on the opposite foot, playing a bit of defence compared to, trying to find a way past, does that affect your mentality heading into that final 30-minute race?
I think just stay clean and hold our position. I'm much better at defending than I am attacking for sure, so I'll just try and hold them off and maybe we can come away with a win or podium at least to finish off the championship.
Well, Stanley, thank you so much. I'm going to have to kick you off the stage. We're going to have to get some of these chairs back into position. You can see great shots there. Shout out to our producers, both here in Corby and also back at Racebot HQ as well. So that is it. That is the first of our races done. And normally we'll be getting ourselves ready for race number 2, but not today. Today we've got something a little bit special. We're going to have ourselves an all-star race. We've got ourselves some great drivers from around the world of motorsports, from that whole idea of, vlogging and streaming and all that kind of cool stuff as well. That is going to be happening over the course of the next hour here. And we are just going to quickly show you, the top 10 of those results once again. We're going to put that up on screen for you for 1 second. And just as we do that, we're going to show you the top 10 on your screen. Worth noting again, Luke McEwen fastest lap. Done that on the penultimate lap of this race.
Yeah, he certainly did, and it was really enjoyable to see. I really had fun commentating on that one, Connery. It was a fantastic race, exciting stuff, and we've got more to look forward to, but now, of course, we've got the All-Stars to come up here, which is going to be something different for us.
Yeah, we've got so many races to go. We usually be looking forward to just one more race, but now we've got All-Stars, 2 races. We've got the actual grand finale, the race 2 of the main championship as well. This break is going to really help the drivers potentially just get themselves themselves refocused and eyes on the prize. But these All-Stars are going to be fantastic as well, I get the feeling.
Yeah. We're going to have a chat with a couple more drivers in just one moment's time. I made the reference twice to this being a bit like a Super Bowl. You have an extended half-time period, Paul. That could do wonders for some drivers, especially those like Jamie Fluke that had a difficult race number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we don't have the budget to get Lady Gaga, but instead you've got us instead. But certainly it's brilliant to see. And these drivers, some drivers will like to have the extra breaks, some won't though. They like a routine, the drivers, and if you break up that routine, it can just give you a little bit more time to think a bit too much into your race, and unfortunately then for those drivers, they can get a little bit inside their own head. But a lot of these drivers, they are some of the top drivers in sim racing, in terms of British sim racing, and I don't see it being an issue for most of these.
So by the power invested by the monitors behind me, we should actually have Josh Ladd coming up on our screen any second. Now, there he is. And Connery, take it away. Have a chat with him.
Josh, that was quite a way to start off our grand finale here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. It seems like, as part of Munster Rugby Gaming, you guys have gotten yourself a good points haul here out of race number 1. How would you rate your performance and how would you rate your team's performance?
No, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you, Josh. It's okay. But the important point to note there, second and third place for you guys. Second and third place for you guys is absolutely great in terms of that team championship. And of course, you're going to be together on the racetrack when it comes to then having to kind of attack to work yourself through the field in race number 2. Do you think that might give you a bit of an advantage compared to the competitors around you?
Oh yeah, of course, a massive advantage. And yeah, me and Alex have been working really well together. Obviously, we drive a lot together outside of the series. So yeah, we'll just try to do our best, really. A lot of Apex cars around us. A couple of guys who really don't have anything to lose, I think, in P1 and 2. So should be a crazy one.
Is that a worry, having that many cars around you and nothing to lose, especially knowing, of course, that license points aren't license points now, they're going to be points deductions? Does that not give you a little bit of calm to note the fact that, yes, there might be less on the line for certain drivers, but there is still going to be a massive penalty towards them if they do cause an incident?
I mean, if you're out of the top 3 in the championship, it doesn't really matter if you get championship points deductions. So, just gotta be aware of your surroundings, I guess. Yeah.
Got ya. Thank you very much, Josh, there for the chat. And that's an interesting point, Connery, because these drivers, we've had 1 or 2 rounds where it's been a little bit tetchy in terms of the situation around the incidents, etc. But the rest of the racing's been actually incredibly clean. That's not really going to change in this final round of the championship, because yes, you are going to have drivers who have nothing to lose. But actually, they've got a lot to lose, because it's their team reputation, it's their sponsor reputation, it's their reputation at the end of 2022 heading into competition next year. I'm sure a lot of these drivers want to be back in this championship next year, not doing something that embarrass them out of it.
That's what the rational part of their brain will be telling them.
Yeah.
The irrational, the racing driver part of their brain will be telling them, go for that position, last lap of the season, go for those points, go for those positions, go for that potential prize money. So I think the situation changes once, for the drivers when they're in their virtual cockpits, when they're presented with the situation, the adrenaline is at an all-time high, the pressure is at an all-time high as well on a potential final lap. Sometimes reason gets thrown out the window.
Is this why I was so bad as a sim racing driver, Paul? Because of the fact that I'm too nice to all the other ones? Is there something I was doing wrong all that time?
You've got to be nasty at times, haven't you? You've got to have that inner drive to beat the other people, to get in front of them, and to stay in front as well. And that's what makes some great drivers out there. And certainly, it's going to be no holds barred out there. The gloves are definitely off in the final race.
Now, Connery, I apologise because of some very small technical issues. I had to cut out for your interview, so I'm going to give you this second chance here. Off you go with Alex.
Yeah, of course, we've got ourselves Alex Betts from Munster Rugby Gaming. Alex, it was a very, very interesting race for you. In the early parts of the race, you had an unfortunate coming together with a certain Apex Racing team driver of Jamie Fluke. Just take me through your perspective of that incident in those early goings.
Well, we had a lot of pace, or at least I in the beginning, so I catched up pretty quickly to them and wanted to try and get past as fast as possible, because I was struggling a bit with overheating. So, well, I went for the move, and I tried to go as far to the right I could, and expected him to maybe go a little bit wider on the exit. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will indeed see. Of course, as all incidents are investigated after the race by the stewards. But of course, completely pushing that aside just for a moment here, Alex. We saw a different side to you, I feel, in this race at Brands Hatch. Usually, you saw playing second gunner to your teammate Josh Ladd, but in this race, it was you pushing those top couple of positions. It was you getting yourself really very much involved with the Apex Racing team and the Apex Racing Academy. What sort of what was your preparation like coming into the day to try and make that change compared to the rounds that we've seen previously?
The preparation for this one was a lot more than the others. I missed Alton, so I'm focusing on trying to help Josh and get the team championship points, but I haven't been able to prepare 100% for the other rounds, so I've done some mistakes in the races, and we've got knockhill, for example, where I went off by myself in the chicane, but I'm much more confident for this one, and I've been able to prepare fully for the week, so yeah, I'm happy.
You potentially might have missed the opportunity to say, oh yeah, it wasn't bad for a number 2 driver. But I will just leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us here, Alex. Go and get yourself prepared for a potentially very fast and frenetic race 2.
Thank you.
It will be very fast and it will be very frenetic, race number 2. But we're going to change ourselves gears a little bit now, because that was race 1 of the main championship. Now we're going to go over to All-Stars races. So we've got ourselves a nice dozen or so drivers. They are going to be doing 2 15-minute races. So not the 30-minute races that we've done previously. It's going to be 15-minute races. And with that, it's about the time that I have to send these 2 lovely people of Paul and Connery back over to the wonderful sweatbox that is commentary hell, whereas I get to stay here nicely in shot. And again, I've not been deliberately putting that Noble Chairs logo in the background. They're not paying me extra. I don't think I can take one of these home with me afterwards, but I do want to say a big shout out once again to Noble Chairs, one of the presenting sponsors of today. And don't forget, if you go and look at the video description, you'll find a link to a competition. You've got until 9 o'clock on Monday morning UTC to enter. It takes literally a minute to do, and you can end up with a nice little Noble chair for Christmas as a free Christmas present. And, you know, that's great, isn't it? So, as we say, scene is going to be set. We're currently in qualifying mode right now. You can see that right behind me. We're going to take you over to the commentary team in just one moment. We got ourselves 10 drivers who have set themselves qualifying times. We've got Mike Epps at the front of the field. This is going to be fun. Going to be a little bit different to what we've seen so far in the main championship, but we hope that you're going to enjoy these 2 15-minute races. I'll be back with you in about 15 minutes to wrap up race 1, talk to the podium, and get yourselves ready for race 2. But in the meanwhile, let's go back to your commentators. Paul Smith, but first, Connery Maddock.
Well, thank you very much, Will. We're about to go All-Stars racing here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship finale at Brands Hatch. A little bit of an intermission before we get ourselves our actual final championship race underway. We've just got qualifying over and done with here for this All-Stars session, so we might as well just jump straight into things and tell you what's going on with the reverse grid for the start of this first race of the All-Stars event here.
Yeah, we're going to have a reverse grid, but of course for race 2, of course, that's going to happen. But here is your starting grid up on screen right now.
Yeah, so it's Mike Epps there from BTCC fame, amongst other things, in that pole position. Then you've got Harley Horton in P2 with Jason Smith and Wiltshire Gerther residing in the second row of the starting grid. You've also got Gustav Burton in 5th place with Oliver Fernal in P6. Further back through the order, you have such names as David Sampson, of course famous streamer here at iRacing, in P7th place with Alice Powell from the W Series in P8. You got Kilbilovsky, one of the young drivers, the young up-and-coming drivers that has really turned some heads in karting, starting in P9 with Ethan Patterson in P10 with Agnes Fender starting in the 11th spot for this All-Stars event.
Yeah, certainly. This is a race that's going to turn a few heads. We've got a few people who are only just starting out in sim racing. In fact, it was Bilovsky's first ever iRacing event. So, welcome to sim race. Welcome to iRacing, Kit.
Yep, and well, let's see if it's going to be a very warm welcome or if it's going to be a very turbulent welcome here as drivers are getting themselves to the starting grid here for the first All-Star race. Here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship finale. Of course, Mike Epps and Harley Horton on pole position there, getting themselves ready to race their way down in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. It's going to be a long hold here before we go racing. It's a poor start from second place, though, from Harley Horton, as Jason Smith is able to get himself up in towards P2 in the early goings as they head their way down through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. A little bit of side-by-side in the mid-pack as we head our way into the heavy braking zone of Druids with a number 37 down the insides there. That is Oliver Fernal, trying to get himself past the 7 of Wiltshire Gerther.
Tregurtha, though, experienced in iRacing. He's raced in many events and knows what he can do behind the wheel. Down into Surtees, cold tyres and brakes, don't forget as well, they're going to be contending with, and that's lovely stuff from Will there down the inside. Of course, former Ginetta Junior champion and British GT champion as well, so we've got some pedigree on the grid here.
Yep, indeed, as you see, Tregurtha trying to defend this position now from Oliver Fernals. We have a little bit of a look more towards the very front of the order because Jason Smith, after gaining that position after the initial starts, now has Harley Horton all over the back of him, coming through the middle sector as Horton's trying to recover that position back after that very, very sluggish start indeed on the way in towards turn 1 for the first time. It's going to be a little bit of a reduced race length here compared to a normal championship race. Just 15 minutes here in the first All-Star race. We'll have a 15-minute event a little bit later on as well. But look at how close Harley Horton is now to Jason Smith coming down the pit straight. This opens up an opportunity potentially into Paddock Hill Bend, looking to go the long way around. The lane's blocked off there by Smith as they continue on in these opening couple of laps here. Mike Epps, though, just trying already to stretch his legs and run away at the front of the field, looking at 0.8 of a second gap already.
Yeah, Mike, of course, former runner-up in the BTCC Jack Sears Trophy in 2016. The only reason he didn't win that, certain Mr. Ashley Sutton. So that's the reason why when you've got a multiple-time British Touring Car champion who in his debut ended up winning that Jack Sears Trophy. I mean, it was tough opposition for Mike Epps, but Epps right now.
Sim racing.
Yeah, he's certainly a sim racer as well, but unfortunately couldn't do this. But Mike's here and he's doing a sterling job up at the front here, representing.
Yeah, he is doing a fantastic job, and of course we got Jason Smith there in second place. He's 17 years old, going into Formula Fords in the not too distant future as well. So getting himself a little bit more experience in the open wheel side of things and the real life side of things. So we're right on board with Gustav Burton here at the moment. He's the 2020 Ginetta Super Cup Vice Champion, the 21 British GT Champion, the 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup GV Rookie Champion as well. So it seems like his trophy cabinet's getting rather full already for such a young lad.
Yeah, absolutely. Get himself down to B&Q. Other shops are available, of course, to get himself a new trophy cabinet. But yeah, plunging down through Paddock Hill Bend and looking all over the back here of Harley Horton. Horton, of course, drives for Pure Sims, so you know they're an experienced sim racing team have really come through. Who, by the way, Pure Sims, Ashley Sutton's team. So there's the link. So Epps will be able to say, I got one over your boys, but certainly Horton, though, putting the pressure on here on Jason Smith, going through Surtees, get the run out the corner, up the hill, across the little bit of a flat, and then plunge downhill through Pilgrim's Drop, and Smith having to go defensive here, though. Horton to the outside, it's a tricky move, and, well, chop your nose off, thank you very much. I'm keeping second, but not quite.
Oh, out into the grass goes Smith, but Horton's not able to capitalise on it just yet. Someone else teasing with the gravel and the grass there in the very back of the shot as well. But Smith is able to hold on to position at the moment. The driver that had a bit of a moment back there was Will Tregurtha. Even further behind these guys, you know, even though it's like a second or so between them, you have Oliver Ferdal and David Sampson for P6 as well, and that's a continuation on a little bit of a rivalry that they had established at the Britcar 24.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course both streamers as well, both YouTubers, and Dave Sampson, of course, is Sampsoid on Twitch, and you got Basic Ollie there with Oliver Fernell between the two of them, so they're carrying on that one. Not that far behind as well. The driver who finished third place in the W Series this season, Alice Powell, she's just loitering, waiting for an opportunity to come up here.
Yeah, absolutely. She did have a little bit of a sluggish lap on that last lap, about half a second slower than what Sampson was able to pull out. It's so difficult to be consistent here at Brands Hatch. It's, you know, again, because you just don't have that room for error. As soon as you exploit the track limits a little bit, you're out into the grass in a lot of cases. So it is very, very difficult to try and keep those lap times within the same ballpark. But this is a fantastic fight, or close moment going on for the final two steps of the podium here at the moment. And, well, Tregurtha is closing in on these guys, and or rather, not Tregurtha, Burton is closing in on these guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to get himself involved in the not-too-distant future as we ride on board with that number 26 car, looking back at the drivers applying pressure to his rear wing.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is where you just got to be a little bit patient. But with a 15-minute race, if you're going to make a move, you need to make that move sooner rather than later. You can't hang around too long, because we see it time and again in all forms of motorsport, whether it be full metal racing or whether it be virtual racing. If you end up spending too much time behind the car in front, you end up slowing down to their pace. You go on their brake markers, you go on their corner markers, and before you know it, you're not going to get past.
Yeah, indeed. You get that tunnel vision. You get locked on to the rear of the car ahead of you, and it is quite difficult to try and break yourself out of that cycle. This is what a lot of the top teams would use people like sports psychologists for, because, you know, as the money starts to get more into towards sim racing, I mean, the money's been in esports, other esports for a while, where teams have been able to hire these support staff members, but, you know, over the last year or so, we've started seeing it in sim racing as well, with the top teams, not only here on iRacing, but on other sims as well, where they start to work with these professionals to try and extract the best potential out of their drivers. So it is very, very interesting to see that brought to the context of sim racing.
Yeah, certainly, and I've seen how people have used these sports psychologists to really improve the performances. I mean, you look in the real world of racing, look at Romain Grosjean. You know, he had to use a sports psychologist to try and get him out of he was in a bit of a cycle of getting involved in incidents, and he used a sports psychologist to change his way of thinking and to try and get himself out of that cycle, and it worked for him, did that. So you can see the benefits of something like that. You can see the benefits of a driver just, you know, after a race, just stepping outside for a couple of minutes to get some fresh air, because you just cool yourself down and to get yourself ready for that next race.
Would you want, with how low the temperature is here in the UK at the moment, would you want to go outside to get some fresh air?
Well, look at Finland. Look at that. They go from being in the sauna to out plunge pools, for example. You know, that's that shock. You know, it can actually help your
hard reset.
Yeah,
is what we'll say there. But yeah, all these things can contribute to the performances that drivers are able to put out there on circuit. We're continuing to watch this battle for P2 here at the moment, because Smith has pulled out a pretty competent defensive drive here so far. Yes, he's sort of allowed Mike Epps to run away at the front of the field. So Epps, we can say, is basically doing his best Peter Berryman impression here at the moment, as what happened in that previous race. But, you know, this battle for P2 still raging on. Having a look at the gaps further down the order, nothing really getting all that close. The closest sort of situation going on back there would be potentially for P5, P6 further back, as we see actually Alice Powell unfortunately seeming to drop in down the order. I wonder what's happened to her, as we are right on board with Harley Horton on the outside in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Optimistic move if he's able to make it stick, which he does not. And let's see how the runs are influenced in towards Druids now, as Horton again looking to the outsides, looking to try and open up that corner a little bit, get the speed off, but not quite going to be so successful. He's going to follow very closely in towards Graham Hill Bend, but that doesn't always give you the right run in towards 30. And 30s is a difficult corner to overtake at the best of times.
I mean, it shows you with this track, though, how you have to set somebody up at Paddock Hill Bend to get the run and get the undercut out of the corner into Druids. Do the same at Graham Hill Bend to give you the shot at Surtees. Contact between the two of them. Wheels touching the side pod there. Able to carry on his Harley Horton, but that was a potentially big moment there.
Oh my words! Through Dingles, how they come. Oh, that was too close for comfort. Let's just say that. We saw there was contact between the two of them, not quite enough to spin either one of those cars around, but definitely a very big wake-up call for both drivers here. Horton, the pressure that he's applying to the back of Smith's car at the moment is absolutely relentless. That number 20 is definitely been at least trying to prove to us and prove to you at home that he is the faster driver out of these two, but he's having a tough time to try and deal with the defensive lines that Smith has been running.
And it's slowing these drivers down as well. It's just keeping these three together, and to keep them all together, it's putting that pressure on. I mean, Smith's doing a fantastic job of keeping in front right now, but Horton is just so epic. It's so great to watch this one. It's edge of your seat stuff here, Connery.
Yeah, indeed it is. If we were sat down.
If we were sat down.
So there we go. As we head in towards the Pilgrim's Drop once again, another look there from Harley Horton outside in towards Hawthorns once again. This is where they made contact last time around. They don't do so this time, but there is Smith being forced wide back onto the circuit, almost into the path of Horton, as Horton tries to wrestle his position away. But here comes Burton now. This is his time to try and make an impact. He hasn't been able to find a way by just yet, but forces Horton to take an alternate line through the next couple of corners, but Horton stabilizes it out, gets himself back into the groove. But Burton, he was waiting for that opportunity. He almost grasped it and took it with both hands.
And look who's catching up to them as well. Will Tregurtha's trying to get with these crew once again. And these drivers are certainly giving us some entertainment here in this All-Stars. You know, a lot of people thought, the All-Stars would be quite at the level of competition of our championship. But my goodness, they're giving us one heck of a show here.
The racecraft's just as good. My words, I'm surprised they haven't wrecked 5 times in a row here at the moment, but they've just about given each other enough space, even if one of the incidents required a little bit of contact to try and make it happen. But we are getting into the last couple of laps of the race now with just 3 minutes, 20 seconds to go. Horton, though, a little bit too much speed through Surtees. Car got itself loose and forced itself out into the grass there, and he loses the position to Gustav Burton, and now he has the problem of Will Tregurtha right behind.
It's so easy to make that mistake there at Surtees as well. You just make a contact, you touch that curb, it settles the car. And with these cars as well, being Formula cars so low, you just end up riding that curb, end up on the grass. Did well to keep it out of the barrier. It must be said, look at how much they're cutting through Sheen Curve. But Sterling's, you set yourself up nicely heading towards the end of the lap. But just coming up to 2 minutes of change, and still Tregurtha now, you can smell 4th place, possibly even 3rd.
Yeah, indeed, well, it's all we're going to see how these last couple of laps turn out, that's for sure. We're riding on board with that number 7 car of Will Tregurtha. Of course, he was the 2016 Ginetta Junior champion, and of course in 2017 in the British GT as well. So lots of accolades for these drivers up and down the field, no matter what level of racing they decide to race. Drivers that have been around for a good couple of years, new drivers, new up-and-coming drivers. For example, Kit Belowski there in P8, also representing here in the All-Stars events. Remember, after this race, we're not done in terms of All-Stars, because we've got another race coming afterwards with the top 10 reverse grid. So if the results are happening as they are now, it would mean that actually Alice Powell gets herself on pole position.
Yeah, we've got a full reverse grid. We've got a 10-car grid. We've got a full reverse grid. What could possibly go wrong here, Connery?
I have no idea.
Involved in a few series where we have full reverse grids. They're usually chaotic, so good luck is all I'd say for this All-Stars race.
All reverse grids, you have like 50 cars.
Well,
so
yes, that's true.
maybe not. Maybe with a smaller field, it's a little bit more manageable. But here at the moment, we've got Alice Powell as our only retirement at the moment, and well, as a sort of side effect of that, she'll get herself pole position for race number 2 here. The All-Stars, Horton teasing with the grass on the outside of Clark. There's the white flag. That's the confirmation of the final lap, at least if we were in the US racing. As we see Tregurtha now looking around the outside of Horton into Paddock Hill Bend. Horton again teasing with the gravel on the outside there. With that compromises run into towards Druids, has to take it slightly defensive.
Yeah, but you can afford to do that at Druids. You can do that indeed. But yeah, Horton's been making mistakes in this race, and I think that's where just that little bit of experience is needed. I mean, you don't end up winning the Ginetta GT5 Challenge in both 2021 and 2022 by accident, but here in sim racing, it's different drivers deal with things differently, and that lack of feel can affect some drivers coming from full metal racing into the virtual road.
Indeed we do. So 20 seconds left on the clock. We already got confirmation that this is the final lap. Here is Mike Epps just getting a little bit of lap traffic on this final lap, which didn't seem to have concerned him whatsoever here. But what a clean race for Mike Epps. What a clean event for our BTCC driver here in the field. Not the only BTCC driver, by the way. We were meant to have Daniel Robot in this race, but unfortunately he didn't turn up. So he is now the only BTCC driver as Mike Epps heads his way across the line to take the race 1 win here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship All-Star Series. Mike Epps on the top of the pile. In terms of the final podium runners, you got Jason Smith and Gustav Burton. Horton does hold on to P4 up against Will Tregurtha.
Yeah, great stuff, and still a couple of drivers to come, and certainly getting themselves experience. And at the end of the day, if you make the end of the race, that's half the battle in a race like this. But yeah, definitely, certainly one to look forward to is the race number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a little bit of a break here in terms of the commentary, but no break for Mr. Will Vincent in the studio, who has our results.
Mike Epps basically able to get himself a good run all the way through this race, basically untouched after the first couple of laps. The action was really going on behind them, however, in terms of Jason Smith, Gus Burton and Harley Horton. I mean, we had a moment when 2 of them, 3 of them could have all been out the race in the blink of an eye. We saw them literally come together, wheel to side pod, and somehow manage to make it through. And of our 10 drivers into them today, we had 9 finishers. Unfortunately, Alice Powell was unable to complete this first race. But after 11 laps, it was Mike Epps claiming victory by just over 3 seconds then over Jason Smythe. Then you have Gus Burton in third, just about half a second behind. Harley Horton in 4th place and about 0.3 seconds back from the podium then. And then Will Tregurtha rounds out your top 5, 4.4 seconds behind your race winner. So that is the way the results last. We don't actually have that long between this race and the next one. I am able to welcome back, though, Connery Maddock and Paul Smith, who's literally run from the commentary side of this establishment all the way back to the presenter's desk. That got very exciting at points there, didn't it, Connery?
Oh yeah, it really did, and it was fantastic to see these all-star drivers show such a great display of driving, because, you know, usually when real-life drivers try their hand at sim racing, some of them treat it perhaps a little bit less seriously than some of the sim racers would take it, but from what I saw out there, at least in race number 1, they took it just as seriously as if they were racing on a real circuit together. The racecraft was fantastic as well. I want more of that, and we will get it.
Very hard racing. In fact, some of the stuff they got away with today that you wouldn't get, you know, away with in the actual British F4 Championship, but they did just about get away with it in that battle for the podium. That was incredibly fun to watch, and it shows as well just how, you know, this is one of those cars that is very difficult to master, but it is very good as a training tool to get you into open wheel racing, and some of these drivers were adapted really well here today.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely correct there, Will, because they're not the highest of downforce cars, so you do have that element of sliding in the car there, but it's giving you that starting point of getting used to what downforce can do for you in open wheel racing. Not as powerful engines as well, so it's all about momentum with these cars as well, to carry that speed through the corners, and certainly it's produces some great racing as well.
I love the fact one of the cars has School of Send. The race winner has School of Send. I mean, that's the sort of stuff you don't always want to have on the side of a race car.
Well, it is actually a racing development team as well as School of Send. So, you know, that's what Mike Epps is involved with, and yeah, it's great to see.
It can, I mean, some of the times we have seen some very close moves here, but Connor, again, the racing was good. We are going to talk to your podium as soon as we get them online to do so. We've only got about 5 minutes before they're going to be racing once again. And I'm just getting in my ear that we are actually getting ready to have our first of these interviews. So, Connery, go on ahead, take it away.
Well, at least if it's following on the pattern from the championship race, we should be getting Mike Epps up on in just a couple of moments' time. Can we speak to him now? Is he on a Zoom call?
Good evening, guys.
Oh, there we go.
I'm not on Zoom, I'm afraid.
No, but Mike, it's great.
If you want me to.
It's great to have you here on the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship, the All-Star event. It seemed like it was a little bit of a walk in the park for you today at the front of the field.
It's never as easy as it looks, boys. Yeah, obviously, I heard you boys talking just before. We've done a huge amount of work with the real-life car. with me and Cal and O'Keefe at School of Send, and I do a fair few laps in this car with private coaching sessions with our drivers that we work with in various different formula, and it does obviously help that Brands GP is by far my favourite track in the UK as well. So when I heard it was happening, I got in touch with Paul, and obviously I'm trying to head up the JHR team in the main championship as well, and kind of manage them when I'm not away abroad at other racetracks doing the real stuff. And yeah, it's obviously led to me kind of knowing half what to do around here. So I got into a nice rhythm. I've raced against Jason Smith before quite a few times on here on various like online sessions, and as soon as I saw his name, I thought I should probably pull my finger out for this one.
Well, you definitely did pull your finger out. Maybe you should put it back in. You've dislocated it because you pulled it out so much that you ran off into the distance. But just having a little bit of a focus now here on race 2, we have what is effectively a full reverse grid now. So you're starting right at the very back of the field. You come from BTCC, which can be considered one of the more chaotic series that there are in World Motorsports. Do you think the experience in that is going to really help you try and scythe your way through the field here?
Kind of, but touring cars have doors and roofs and stuff that you can squash and you can lean on people with. So, and especially with iRacing and online racing netcode, there's always a little bit of leeway. You leave a foot more on the sim than you'd leave in real life, for example, which sounds crazy, but it's actually true. So this could either be carnage and an early dinner and a bottle of beer, or this could hopefully go quite well. We'll see.
Well, we definitely wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much for joining us, Mike, here on the interviews, and maybe we'll talk to you a little bit later on if you get on the podium.
Yeah, fingers crossed, not dislocated.
All right, okay, right, thank you very much.
And please remember to have the beer after you finish driving. Please don't drink and drive.
Of course, don't sim and drive, everyone.
Yes.
Don't sim and drive, never.
So we are going to talk ourselves from P1 down into P2, and of course what is in that very frenetic battle. So Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you for that one. Oh, no, I'm talking. Hello. Sorry, I've got stuff happening in my ears. It just isn't quite loud enough for me. So I'm going to say hello. I'm presuming I'm talking to second place. I'm hoping I can. Oh, no, I'm talking to Gus. Hello, good evening, Gus. You are right there involved in the action all evening. So how was that first race for you in what was at point entirely chaotic?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I was about to have a stroke trying to keep up with these guys. I'm not very, very experienced in the iRacing world. I'm a rookie on here, but yeah, basically just drove, tried not to make any mistakes, capitalised on I don't know who was in P3 ahead of me, but he made a slight error, and then yeah, just tried to bring it home. I was close to maybe getting P2 at the end, but yeah, these guys are bloody fast.
You were there in the mix when you had that. The two drivers ahead of you literally went wheel to side pod. I mean, your heart must have been in your mouth at that point, knowing how narrow this track is. If there was to have been a massive incident, do you think as if you would have even been able to get through it?
I'm not going to lie, I was sort of hoping there was going to be one. I was looking at the two ahead of me and I thought, well, I'm not got the pace to overtake them, so something's got to happen for me to capitalise on it. But yeah, like I said, I was mainly focused on not making a mistake than making any positions. But I put the pressure on P3 and P2 towards the end, and
well, I am very mindful of the fact that you have got to get back ready to race in just a couple of minutes. So hopefully we get the chance to talk to you again after this race. Good luck with the reverse grid because it's going to be challenging. Any final thoughts before I let you go?
No, not particularly. I'm going to try and survive.
Try to survive. Try and get yourself as far up as you can. Good luck. And in fact,
Yeah.
good luck to all.
Cheers, guys.
No worries. Thank you so much. And thank you very much to all the 10 drivers taking part in this all-star event here this evening. I mean, we've got, don't forget, the final round of the ROKiT British Formula 4 Esports Championship to come after this race. So it's been an extended break for the drivers who are running for £2,500 in terms of the team championship and £500 in terms of the drivers championship. But before we get to that, we've got some more fun to come, and that is your fully inverted, pretty much, race grid for race number 2. Let's hand it back to your commentators, Conor Maddock and Paul Smith.
Well, thank you very much there, Will. I think one of the drivers are going to, well, thinking they hope to survive, maybe put I will survive on full blast. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, that's...
it's cognitive conditioning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a song called "If I Survive" by Hybrid, which is a very good song. But so we're covering all bases there of elements of survival. But it was worth pointing out Alice Powell. We saw her retire in that first race. It's caused a little bit of an issue with her equipment, so she's had to reset things. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see Alice in race 2, and hopefully see some good pace from her as well.
Is that an excuse to just drop back to the field to get a reverse grid pole?
I'm not being cynical, you are.
Well, I mean, one of us can be cynical, the other of us can be reasonable, and that balances things out. So that's good as far as I'm concerned. But we got our little warm-up session over. We'll get ourselves into the gridding procedure here for race 2 of the All-Star Series. It's going to be another 15-minute event, 10-car reverse grid, which means with 10 cars, it's a full reverse grid. And of course, after this, we'll get on with doing our final championship race, where all the prize money is going to be paid out for our professional drivers here today. But let's have a look at the starting grid then for race 2 of the All-Stars. It is Alice Powell on pole position with Ethan Patterson in P2, with Kit Belowski in P3, with David Sampson in P4. Oliver Fernald will start P5, with Will Tregertha in 6th place. Further back through the order, you have Harley Horton starting in 7th, with Gustav Burton in P8. Jason Smith in P9, with Mike Epps in P10. Angus Fender at P11, towards the very back. I don't think he even took the start there in race number 1. So hopefully he gets himself on the grid for race number 2. But it is Alice Powell on pole position. We got maximum 15 seconds before we get going. We get racing down in towards Paddock Hill Bend. But everyone getting themselves ready now. Of course, we had a few sluggish starts, not only in the All-Stars race, but we had a few in the championship race earlier on as well. It's so important to nail that start here at Brands Hatch, given the short run into Paddock Hill Bend. But we're just about ready to go racing once again here. Race 2 of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship All-Stars event. And off and away we go. It's a good start from pole position from Alice Powell. It's a great start, though, as Kit Belowski has gotten himself a massive launch on the way down in towards turn number 1. He's challenging down the inside. He goes to P1 in the start, but there's been an incident behind. Multiple cars out into the gravel there. Harley Horton involved in it. Gustav Burton as well, cycling himself down the order. Excuse me, that was David Sampson going to the race lead initially in the number 77 car. Oliver Fernald following through in his tyre tracks.
Oh, Kit Belowski and Harley Horton were getting involved in that opening instant at Paddock Hill Bend. It was almost like everybody wanted first place. Yeah. And only so many people can actually get through in one piece. So 2 drivers on the pit road. Unfortunately, Alice Powell not able to take the start by the looks of things as well. So not able to fix that. Oliver Fernald to the race lead. We also had, car into the wall. Heavy impact.
Oh no, that is not very pretty. It's Ethan Patterson. Ethan Patterson in the number 89 car, cycling down the order. Meanwhile, Will Tregertha and Sampson battling out side by side. And now Smith is also going to get himself involved and a free position as well. And now Mike Epps from the back of the field looking to go around the outside of Sampson. It looks like he's got that position half done, now fully done, on the way in towards Clark Curve. So that's a great opening lap there for Mike Epps, back to the field to P4 already. Of course, helped by the instance that we saw early on. That's the number 89 of Patterson, out heavy into the wall. Driver's left-hand side damage. Just look at this scrap going on for the podium positions. Vernal still leads. Now it's Tregertha and Smith going wheel to wheel down in towards Druids, as Tregertha has, well, a loftier goal. He looks to try and go around Vernal, but not finding much progress on the outside there.
Yeah, just not quite opening up there. And the thing is, look at that now. Great run there from Jason Smith down the inside on Tregertha, and Mike Epps is following through. Epps isn't satisfied. We're getting 1 race win. He wants to talk to us again, Connor. He wants to get another race win here.
Yeah, he really does. And look, he's basically pushing Will Tregertha down the Pilgrim's Drop here in towards Hawthorns. There's going to be no opportunity, at least from even half a car length back there. Fernal, he's trying to focus on running away at the front of the field, trying to do exactly what Mike Epps did in that previous race, but not so successful with it this time around. Just 0.3 of a second ahead of Jason Smith at the moment. But these guys, if they fight it out behind Fernal here, that might give Fernal a bit of moving room. I don't think he has the clear air pace to keep these guys behind at the moment without that outside influence.
We're down to 6 on track right now, but these 6 are giving us, or the 5 at least at the front, are giving us some tremendous fun. And Mike Epps taking to the grass there on the exit of the Jim Clark curve, down towards Paddock Hill Bend, late onto the brakes. Oh, he's absolutely locked the brakes up, and well, you've got a lot of work to do there, Mike.
Oh, and a look for the race lead as well, just on the very edge of our shot, or not the race lead, well, it was the race lead, in fact, I should stop talking over myself here. The number 37 and the 26 going hell for leather here in the early stages of this race too, in towards Surtees, big dive to the inside by Smith, and the door is left open by Fernal there.
Oh, well, Fernal, I think he saw that coming, but the thing is with that, leaving the door open there, it gives you a good run out of the corner, down Pilgrim's Drop, try and get the slipstream here, look to the outside, not going to happen, but that can get that little bit of switch of lines to come to the inside, but that's been covered off by Jason Smith. Now, Smith! Oh, it was getting all so close, it's wiggling, it's wobbling, it doesn't want to stay in a straight line, and incredibly, they'll keep it on the grey stuff.
Somehow they've kept it all together. Those cars looking pretty nervous at this stage. To Goethe down the inside of Fernal at Sterling's Bend and gets the pass done. Samson also on the outside looking into this situation as well there, back in P4. So he's going along very, very well indeed. And again, well, Ding Dong Rivalry Part 2 as we see Samson looking to the outside into Paddock Hill Bend on Fernal, but surprise, surprise, it's Mike Epps down the inside.
Yeah, can he actually keep it on the track? Oh, no, he can't keep it on the track. He's doing a bit of cleaning the kitty litter right now. He's trying to spray all the marshals down there at Paddock Hill Bend, and Epps does get ahead then. You can get away with that a little bit in a touring car, not so much in a Formula 4 car, you should know that. But yeah, Epps working his way forward, and twice in 3 laps he's been in the gravel there at Paddock Hill Bend, and yet still he's only 2 seconds off the race lead.
Yeah, indeed he is, and well, that is ample time to try and make up inside the 10 minutes that we have to go, especially with how quickly Epps has been going at this stage of the event. But he's been having these mistakes coming out to Paddock Hill Bend that's really put a damper on his performance so far. So as long as he can get that Paddock Hill Bend fine, especially when he's embroiled in a battle, then maybe he can continue to try and make some forward progress. But for now, again, these mistakes, like going wide out of Sterling's, that's not going to help. Epps might be overdriving the car at the moment, and what happens when you overdrive a car in iRacing? The tyres heat up. The tyres heat up. You're going to make more mistakes.
You certainly did. Jason Smith into pit road.
Oh no!
What's happened here? And don't say he's got a drive-through penalty, or no, he must have some sort of doubt. Or did he jump the start and he's got to stop and go? Yeah,
it's a stop go. So that usually is a jump start.
Yeah, jump start
in iRacing. So yeah, didn't spot that. I mean, it was a chaotic start to be fair, because we ended up having Alice Powell actually not take the start and just confusing my my run through the order on the start there. But it's still my fault. But as the race runs right now, well, we've got Tregurtha leading from Fernal, from Epps. That's the top 3, the podium spots. And we've got Samson, and we've got Smith. He comes out in P5 there, does Smith, after that stop-go penalty, ahead of Burton, ahead of Harley Horton, who's 1 lap down, who was involved in that initial incident. And of course, we have the retirements of Ethan Patterson and Kit Belofsky as well. So the rate of attrition a little worse here in race 2 compared to race number 1. I think the first race maybe lulled these drivers into a false sense of security, and prepared with the reverse grid, it's sometimes a recipe for disaster.
It can do. I mean, reverse grids usually end one of 2 ways. Either it's an absolutely spectacular race in which you have action all the way through the field, or you have a bit of chaos. I think we've had a little bit of the chaos right at the start in that opening lap, but things have actually been quite entertaining to watch here though. The top 4, they've spread out that little bit now. So Tregurtha, you look at the lap times that he's setting here, Tregurtha, in this second race of the evening. He's matching the pace of the top 5, top 6 from the championship race that we saw in the opening of this event. So, you know, these drivers, they have got that pace to match those Esports pros.
Of course, there may be a little bit of variation in terms of the track conditions. That does affect things quite a lot here at iRacing. However, it's in the same ballpark, like you mentioned. So that is fantastic to see from our all-star drivers. Some of them may be real-world drivers, some of them streamers and content creators, of course. So yeah, it's great to see them really stepping up to the plates. There's the battle, well, not quite a battle just yet, but there's the situation there for the race leads. Tregurtha 0.6 of a second ahead of Fernal here at the moment. This would be a fantastic result for Fernal, no matter what. No matter whether he catches Tregurtha for the race lead or he holds on to P2 against X in particular. I would come out of that race as Fernal, just thinking, oh wow, that was a pretty good job I did.
I think also that basically Ollie wants to beat Samside as well. Don't forget. So it's going to be round 2 win for Oliver. So yeah, definitely there's that little bit of inter-driver rivalry going on out there, and yeah, certainly it's great to see that happening in here in these types of events, and certainly they give us some entertainment. But we're going to pass the halfway point of the race. We're into the second half of the race now, Connery. We've got these gaps, and we look at the last laps. The front 3, they're all pretty much even pace. They're not really gaining on each other, but Samside's actually just dropping back a little bit, is David?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed he is. So that's a little bit of a concerning situation, but at least for Samson, he doesn't have any immediate pressure from behind. The next driver, Jason Smith, is 10 seconds further down the road, so it's not a mass, or rather 15 seconds further down the road, as we have the relative gaps on screen rather than the gaps to the leader. But yeah, Samson, I mean, it's just a drive to the end, potentially, now for Samson. Of course, pending any further issues that may happen towards the very front of this field. But it seems like Tregurtha is comfortable here as far as the race is concerned. We just saw that gap just touch the second between himself and Fernal. So if I was Tregurtha, I wouldn't be too worried in this situation. If I was Fernal, though, let's see what the lap times are from them. So Fernal did a 1:22.8 that last time by. Actually, we'll get the lap times refreshed as they come through on this one, just to get a little bit of a more up-to-date situation. So it was a 1:22.776 there for Fernal. It was a 1:22.810, excuse me, for Mike Epps. So Fernal actually getting himself a little bit of a benefit there on that particular lap compared to number 12, and I have to wonder potentially if Epps might have a bit of floor damage from running wide so much.
Oh, Tregurtha, mistake at the front there, running wide out of Graham Hill Bend, and that's getting a perfect opportunity for Oliver Fernell now to really get the pressure on. You got to strike while the iron's hot here as they plunge downhill once again, and Fernell just not able to quite get there. I think he does potentially just have a little bit of front end damage potentially. No, it looks good. So really, Oliver, he had that opportunity there. You've got to take those opportunities when they come.
Yep, you really do. So that changes things slightly here as far as the race lead is concerned, because it has brought Fernal back into things slightly. However, we did see, at least over the last probably 5 laps or so, Tregurtha, when he's in his groove, he is able to pull away from Fernal and from Epps as well. But maybe that's given a glimmer of hope. It's the carrot on the stick ahead of Fernal here at the moment to try and go chasing for this race win, because he might have had a moment there. It's like, oh, Gap's getting up to a second, I'm not going to catch him. But as soon as that mistake came in from Tregurtha, Fernal was like, okay, maybe race win is not out of the question.
No, potentially not, and he's keeping the pressure on Mike Epps, though. He's putting the pressure on both of them right now. Epps, after being in through the kitty litter at Paddock Hill Bend a couple of times in this race, he's not out of this one then. There's just 7.5 tenths covering the top 3 right now. You don't need me to say that. You can see it on screen. My goodness, this is tremendous stuff here, and Epps is certainly giving us some entertainment.
Well, so Fernal, I think he has to try and turn his attention to behind him here at the moment, because Epps is looking very, very strong indeed, at least over these last couple of laps where he's got himself back into the zone. So he potentially might be able to give a good run of it here in the final 3 minutes that we have to run here, and Fernal running a slightly wide there. That will give another little advantage to Mike Epps in through this middle sector, now getting onto the entry to Sterling's Bend. You can see how close Epps is now. Right up to the rear wing of that number 37, and with X's tendency to go full send so far in this race, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to one so far back.
You never say never with Mike. This is I mean, we've seen him, wheels locked up and everything. going into Paddock Hill Bend, so he's certainly not shy in coming forward as Mike. And yeah, but basic Ollie though, there he is, Oliver Fennell, second place, great position. If you can withstand this pressure, and it is a lot of pressure is this, then my goodness, you've done a tremendous job here.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to be in a very exemplary defensive drive for Fernal to hold on to this P2. He's done very well so far, all things considered, but has to maintain this one now for another lap and a half. So that's going to be no small feat as Epps starts to get more and more desperate for the position. You can tell just the body language of the cars in the initial part of the straight there. Epps just sort of fishtailing around a little bit, seeing where the opportunity might arise, getting himself in the wing mirrors of that number 37 to try and put him off his game. But this could really go either way at the moment, because Fernal hasn't really cracked under this pressure just yet, and I'll have to touch wood. I'm not sure the desk is even wood here.
Yeah, it's not our usual setup here, that's for sure. But Epps is putting that tremendous pressure on. But you can see how Oliver is trying to use the slipstream of Will Tregurtha to try and help just pull him on just that extra tenth. But Epps has got the overlap here. This is the perfect opportunity for Mike.
Yeah, and Tregurtha's giving him the slipstream here down the pit straight as well, just to give Epps that little bit of a benefit, and the connection in towards Paddock Hill Bend is certainly not going to help the situation either. Lots of space given between the two of them there. Very fair racing indeed. They're absolutely level here, coming in towards Druids. Mike Epps on the inside. Oh, and Fernal drops it on the exit of the corner there. Spins back around. Is he going to lose the position to Samson? Yes, he is. He's going to lose the position. Well, there's a lap down car coming through there, so he's not going to lose any more positions with regards to that. But that might be it in terms of our battles here on the final lap. Of course, it is tricky when a car is coming in and out of existence there with the internet problems. But either way, that was shaping up to be a good battle. We had a couple of moments of it, but Mike Epps is going to come out on top in this instance. But at least on top in terms of the race, looks like Will Tregurtha at the moment. Epps is about a second behind, so Tregurtha can't afford to make any mistakes here coming in towards the final sector of things.
Giving everything he can, isn't he, as Epps? He's all over, he's using every inch of the track. But Will Tregurtha, great race at the front there. He got to the front of this one, and he's just kept it there.
Yep, so Will Tregurtha comes through Clark Kerr for the final time here in the All-Star Series for the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. Will Tregurtha, the number 7, across the line to take the race win here in race 2. Mike Epps is in P2, and David Sampson. Ooh, actually, our timing screen had a little bit of a moment, but David Sampson comes across the line there in P3, further back through the field.
Yeah, great stuff there for Sampside. His loyal army of fans will be delighted with that, and he gets one over Oliver as well, for good measure as well. It didn't help Oliver that Mike Epps engaged the cloaking device there, but unfortunately that's the nature of racing over the internet, and connections can have little issues.
Yeah, that is absolutely just the nature of things. But that's the end of the racing here in terms of the All-Star Series. We'll send it back to the studio where Will is standing by.
Once again, Will Tregurtha then claims victory by just under 1 second from Mike Epps. He tried to go back-to-back, but not quite able to do so. That was a rather chaotic race, right from turn number 1 all the way down through the last couple of laps. Oliver Fernal, for example, having that moment with just a lap or so to go. The top 10 of your results are up on your screen. Fastest lap, by the way, lap number 6 by Jason Smythe. So he gets P number 6. So P number 5, but the fastest lap on lap number 6. Those results are up for your viewing pleasure right now. We've got about 20 minutes then until we head ourselves through to the final of our races. And the little thing, I want to do a little segue, because pretty much we talk about food on every single RaceBot broadcast that we've ever done. Today is no exception. I walked to get these guys some water because, you know, it is rather warm in commentary world over there, as it always is when we do commentary. We go through gallons of water. Then I walked past, and First of all, thank you so much, Paul Crawford, for all the help that you've done in terms of being able to work with Motorsport UK and this whole Formula 4 Esports British Championship, partnering up with ROKiT, partnering up with Simucube, partnering up with Noble Chairs. However, you have had by far the healthiest meal of the day. I saw you eating a rice salad box and you had some fruit salad next to you. These two guys have had Mackies today and most likely will have Mackies later. I went for the slightly posher option and had a steak, but that was far too healthy to be anywhere near a Race What TV broadcast, Paul.
Yeah, that's just not uncalled for, absolutely. We're going to call him out on that one.
Yeah.
But one thing that is good for us is these comfortable Noble chairs. It's certainly helping us with when having to rush between it, keeping me and Connery nice and fresh, because we've got a bit of a walk there after each race.
They're very smooth when they're rolled across the stage.
They are, yeah. I would have to say, by the way, that was about as smooth a transition to a sponsor as the hoodie and the tops that you and I were wearing as we came in.
We've got to say, Linus Tech Tips, eat your heart out.
Yeah, definitely. We have got some interviews, of course. We are going to talk to your race winner in just one moment's time. You know what, Paul? I don't think you've done an interview yet today, have you?
I know that we've got Mike Epps ready, and he certainly had an eventful time out there.
Oh, he really did, didn't he? He's out from the back of the field.
Yeah,
is it Mike we've got on right now? Yes, it is. So take it away, Paul.
So, Mike, I mean, we talked to you beforehand. You survived, so that's, first of all, well done. But you certainly did your best to find the wall at Paddock Hill Bend a couple of times.
Well, they don't call us School 7 for nothing, do they? Yeah, that didn't quite go as well as planned. I'm good mates with Will, but yeah, I had one of those sort of random half lockups into Paddock on the inside of him, and I was like, I'm not going to be staying on the inside here. Hopefully he doesn't steer in too much, but he wouldn't have known it was coming. And then we had a little rear left to front right, and that was me in the gravel. And then my steering was kind of bent from that point. It was turning left the whole time. So it took me a few laps to get used to the new setup. And then, we cracked on, but it was just needs to be one of those half-hour races for that one. But that's the art of sprint racing. So in hindsight, the coach in me would have said hold back for a lap, but it's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I was saying on commentary that with these sprint type of events, you can't stay behind for too long, can you? You've got to almost arrive and drive by to get those moves done in these races.
Yeah, it's exactly it. The biggest problem with this sort of car in real life is what's known as dirty air to most fans, but it's actually essentially it's mainly over the front wing that it affects your ability around the corner, and that delays your throttle, which delays your mid-corner speed, and it really hurts you in the exact place where you want to be strong when you're trying to pass another car, getting a run onto a straight. So, positioning people into defensive places and stuff is good. You can obviously do that a bit around here, but the sprint races, that's the whole point, is entertainment, isn't it? That's why, touring cars obviously being my main background here in the UK, that's why it's so entertaining and so popular, because they make a show of it. It's all singing, dancing, sparkles, bent doors and broken rims, and that's kind of, part and parcel of the show. I think that's, in a way, that's why NASCAR is so popular in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on as well, looking forward for yourself, 2023, I mean, how is that looking for yourself? Have you got anything sort of announced yet, or is things still just in the works?
Well, racing myself has been put a little bit on hold for like 3 years because of lockdown initially. Kind of started the whole phase, and I had half a season in Ginetta Super Cup the year before, which was a bit of a fallback after a deal fell through with someone else in something else. And it's difficult motorsport, it's going up like gas prices. It's kind of the same. It's difficult to maintain a career in it, and a lot of the kids I now work with can attest to that. It's very difficult, but because the coaching side of things took off, we obviously had our kind of breakthrough first year rookie driver championship win. He won everything effectively with Matt Rees in Formula 4 in 2021. It kind of led to a lot of interest on the coaching front, and so now me and Callan are busier than ever. I was in Spain last week, I fly to Spain next week, and I'm off somewhere else after the new year. Racing's gone on the side a little bit, if I'm honest, so it's one of those, but I always say I'll do one a year, and this year it was Formula 4 Walter Hayes Trophy, never driven one, so I just jumped in on the Friday for fun, had the time of my life. Had a similar race to that one actually. To be fair, thinking back, but yeah, I'm sort of keeping the enjoyment out of it now, and really putting a lot of my, accrued knowledge over the years and my heart and soul into the people I work for now, and seeing if I can make a star out of someone who's still got the opportunity. And yeah, I think with some of the boys we're working with, that's definitely there on the table to get. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work over the winter with testing and drivers and a hell of a lot of coaching next year, I think, and probably for the years to come.
And I was going to say, to attest to that, I've heard a lot of people, a lot of coaches in the past who have been former like rugby players or footballers who have said that when you're in the thick of it, you don't get to enjoy the journey, but when you're coaching somebody, you actually get to sit back and look at the big picture and think, wow, what a achievement for that person, and I've been a part of that. So it must be rewarding in that way for you.
Yeah, I have to say, in a strange way, and this is in the nicest way you can possibly say it, it's not necessarily your situation that you're in. So you're just outside in a bit of a safety zone, if that makes sense, when you're watching everything unfold. I still feel it, at the end of the day. If you have a win with the driver you're working with, it's a lot better than if they come in with no front wing and a rear right hanging off or something. So it does have a huge difference. But in a way, you are right. I've never really put it into words like that, which is nice actually, because I've really enjoyed the last couple of years in a way that you can't when you've got all that internal pressure on you. I even noticed it at that one race I did this year. I found suddenly I was unable to focus on as much stuff on the outside of it as I normally can, because I'm actually in the seat while I'm going around the track. I don't have like a load of free time where the car's going around. I'm in it actually circulating. So, it puts a lot more pressure on a race weekend, and that's partly kind of the selling point for having a coach. You kind of, we're the glue that, make sure all the little bits are looked after and all the little things that you need go right. And every day's a school day at the end of the day. I still learn the occasional thing from drivers I work with as well. So, yeah, it's something I think every driver should have at some point in their career.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us for the All-Stars and for jumping in the interviews here, and certainly provided us plenty of entertainment, that's for sure.
Nice. If I'm here to do nothing else, it's entertaining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
And
cheers, guys. Thank you.
I actually kind of get the point as well, because I was in that situation where I moved from being a full-time commentator to management. It's very rare I get let out these days to come and do fun stuff like this. But it's that whole thing, you get a much different perspective when you're kind of looking at it from different perspectives compared to being there in the moment, day to day, etc. It's really fascinating. And again, thank you to all of our All-Stars for really taking the time to not only have some fun, but to put on some great racing as well, Connery.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. It was a very enjoyable race as well. Of course, we had a little bit more of an interesting rate of attrition in that second race with the early incident that we had into Paddock Hill Bend. But we still got some great fights throughout the fields. And of course, with Mike Epps' charge through the field, with the defensive efforts that were on display as well, that was very, very nice. That's just the way I'm going to describe it.
Talking about charging through the field, that's a perfect segue to move on to start thinking about what is coming up next, because it is the final round of the championship, and we have champions to crown, both in terms of a driver's sense and in terms of a team sense. Don't forget, £2,500 plus 2 full days worth of simulator time for the team victors, £500 plus, of course, even more prizes for those who win in terms of the Drivers' Championship. And after race number 1, Paul, it is close, and it is going to be some drivers, these drivers are going to have that situation of trying to work out the points in their head and whether or not they need to make the move, whether or not they should make the move, or whether or not it's the case of there's 4 laps to go, something needs to change.
Yeah, I know Connery's been sort of keeping the track and doing some back of envelope mathematics here for it, and it is incredibly close how this championship is coming into this final round. And I said, me and Connery, every series that we've commentated on this season, it's come down to a final race, and it's come down to a point. And my goodness, we're going to get it again, aren't we, Connery? Well, because this has just been absolutely sensational.
It's not quite a point just yet, but if you thought we were close coming into the day, we're even closer at this point, because we've got We've got Monster Rugby Gaming currently leading the way in terms of the points at the moment coming out of race 1. This is without considering any penalty points from any incidents that we have to keep in mind. So Monster Rugby Gaming leads, 3 points behind them, Apex Racing Team. 15 points behind Monster Rugby Gaming is the Apex Racing Academy. In terms of drivers, though, that's where things get a little bit more interesting, because we've got Luke McEwen currently leading the way there. We've got Josh Ladd 3 points behind. Berryman 4 points behind. So there's only 1 point between P2 and P3 here at this moment in time. So there's going to be a lot to keep track of in this second race. I mean, our spreadsheets and our calculations are going to be whirring away, and you could probably power 15 cities on the amount of waste heat, but it's but yeah, this is all shaping up to be a grandstand finish of a race, let alone a final lap.
I will say that is a very, very expensive back of an envelope. But the maths is sound. We have checked that one up, and of course, that's the whole thing. We don't know. It could all change in the first lap. It could all come down to the final lap, to the final corners. Don't forget, the final corners actually can give you the best opportunities to overtake here at Brands Hatch. So don't go anywhere. I mean, if you've got a noble chair like we do, you can literally, if I know where the button is, you can lean back and there we are, I'll lean back. Because these are really, really nice chairs. I'm not saying that just because they're sponsoring these are really nice chairs. And of course, stay with the action all the way through to the end. We're going to have a chat, of course, with most likely at least one of the drivers from the Apex Racing Hub who are literally downstairs underneath me. It's a good job we're soundproof from top to bottom, because it's going to get loud in terms of the commentary. It's going to get loud in terms of the emotion downstairs as well, because there is still so much to play for, and this is what we love about racing championships. Not just open wheel championships, not just esports championship, any championship where it comes down to the final moment, the unpredictability kicks in, and with that you really get to understand the test of a true racing driver, because they always say there are a number of drivers who can win if they are just put into the position of starting the race and being close to the front. Well, you don't get that. You've got 8 drivers today, let's not forget, who are going to be inverted. That is most of your championship field. In fact, Jamie Fluke starting in 9th might actually be really helpful to help his teammate Peter Berryman here today. That could be a massive story point moving forward as to how closely these team drivers are kind of bunched together up in the field pool, because teamwork for this race could be everything.
Well, we saw it with the Monster Rugby Gaming team, didn't we, in that first race, how they were able to orchestrate things. Alex did a fantastic job start the race, getting up there in the front two. We said we don't know what will happen if there is going to be any penalty or not. That's going to be post-event. But he was in there, he was in the mix, he was able to put the pressure on Pete Berryman for a long time, and then when his teammate came up behind him, that was the opportunity, and it surprised me, Connery, that he was able to get that switch done and to keep Luke McEwen behind.
We called it at the time. No, I don't think many teams in that situation would tell the drivers to orchestrate that swap. Personally, if I was a team boss, I would think, no, hold position. Our competitors too close behind us. We can't do this safely. But that was a ballsy call that they made there.
I mean, don't forget, I've commentated so many IndyCar races over my life where, they do orchestrate swaps because it's actually a part of racing. In a Formula 4 car, that is far more difficult. However, I'm noticing we've got 3 minutes left on the clock, so it's almost time. For the final time today, I get to kick you out and have this lovely studio to myself for the next 30 minutes. By the way, I want to say a massive shout out to all the guys over at Apex who have been humbly accommodating us here today, because it's been absolutely easy in terms of getting everything we needed set up, in terms of getting ourselves connected and ready to do this. So thank you very much to all the Apex team. Thank you very much to Dane working in the back, and of course the maestro himself, Hugo Louise. He'll be in Europe very, very soon. He gets the chance to finally leave Brazil, and we can't wait for that. But again, Hugo, you're the very best at what you do. That's the sort of roast part of it. all out of the way now. So, as I say, get yourself some popcorn. If you put the popcorn in the microwave literally right now, it'll be ready just before the green flag, because you're going to need some. It's going to be massively, massively exciting over the next 30 minutes worth of racing. So I'm going to get these two go out and do their job. So we're going to cue transition to something in a moment's time, and I'm going to get myself ready to bring you into the final event of the championship. The Formula 4 Esports Championship presented by ROKiT has been absolutely incredible all year long. And this is it. This is the final round of the championship. You've got 3 teams separated by just a handful of points. You've got 3 drivers separated by just 4 points. We've got money on the line. We've got money can't buy experiences on the line. The chance to go and spend 6 hours in a simulator, 2 days in a racing simulator. The experience is going to be life-changing for these teams, getting the chance to really understand this car like absolutely nothing before. So again, a massive shout out to all the partners, to ROKiT, to Simucube, to Noble Chairs, for everyone who's got us to this point, the final round of the championship. Don't forget, go onto the video description. You can enter before 9 a.m. on Monday the 5th of December, and that will give you the opportunity to win one of these Noble Chairs. Not this one, it's sort of my back sweat by now, but you'll get yourself a brand new one, maybe in time for Christmas. And with that, it's time for us to hand it back over to commentary. There are going to be hearts broken, there are going to be champions crowned. Let's hand it back then to Connery Maddock and Paul Smith.
This is it. This is it, Paul. It's the final race of the season in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. It's here at Brands Hatch, where all good British racing championships end. Just one more 30-minute race to crown not only a team's champion, but also to crown a driver's champion as well. 3 teams could call themselves champion at the end of this race. 3 drivers could call themselves champion at the end of this. That's what's on the line. They're all very close in terms of points as well. I'm nervous for these drivers, Paul.
I mean, I don't know how these drivers are feeling. Absolutely not, because I think those that have got experience of being in a championship position in terms of winning a championship, I think those guys will really be benefiting from that experience. But right now, it's just all about keeping your nerve, getting a good start, and keeping out of trouble. That's going to be a key thing.
Yep, it absolutely is. Well, time is going to expire in terms of our warm-up time here in this particular event. We'll get ourselves confirmation of the starting grids here coming out and into our final. So that's the top to bottom in terms of the starting grids here today for our final race of the season. It is Matt Caruana on pole position, but the championship drivers behind him will surely try and make short work of those drivers that have benefited from the reverse grid for the final time in the British F4 Esports Championship. Powered by ROKiT, we're heading down in towards turn number 1, in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Joseph Loke immediately aggressive, but Caruana keeps himself ahead for now. Deslandis looking to try and gain some points for Apex Racing Academy, looking to go around the outside in towards turn number 2 here on Joseph Loke, but Loke holds on to the position. Here comes Ted Bradbury in towards P3, sends Deslandis down into P4. Specs loses the position to Luke McEwen. In amongst all of that, there's battling going on behind with the Apex cars as well. Berryman, Fluke, all involved in this. In fact, both the teammates going side by side.
They certainly are, but they're not moving forward, which is what they need to do. But one driver who has basically kept himself in front, should we say, is Luke McKeown, because he had to get ahead of Alex Betts again. Look at that for the lead. No, side by side into the grass goes Luke. My goodness, here comes Bradbury and Deslandis now. They're coming in for this one, and all of a sudden Luke's getting a bit freight trained here.
Yep, indeed he is. Joseph Luke around the outside. He has 2 tyres out of the grass. Somehow he holds onto it, but he gets back out into the green stuff on the outside of the corner. Back onto circuit. Thankfully in a little bit of space. There's car off in the background. Car off. That's number 97. Ethan Critchley having problems. Doesn't look like any of our championship contenders involved in that, so the panic over for those guys. But in terms of the race lead, what's happened to Matt Caruana? He's lost a lot of speed out of Clark Curve. Ted Bradbury's our new race leader, but he's battling it out with Stanley Deslandis in towards Paddock Hill Bends here. 2 Apex Racing Academy cars, P2, P3. This might be a good point stay for them if they can maintain it. Deslandis looking down the outside of his teammate now as McEwen stuck his nose down in there. Perhaps that's a higher priority in terms of Drivers' Championship, as Deslandis almost gets run over from behind.
Oh, he chopped the nose off of Alex Spets right there. He knew Spets to the inside of Deslandis is not going to get the run. Meanwhile, Josh Ladd is getting involved in this battle with Matt Caruana as well as Joseph Luke. So, my goodness, this is entertainment, this excitement, drama all the way through these opening moments. Luke McEwen has taken the lead of the race.
McEwen to the lead. That's crucial in terms of Drivers' Championship. It's also important in terms of teams as well as Apex Racing Academy. They're third coming into this race, 15 points behind Munster Rugby Gaming. They need all the points they can get with regards to trying to get themselves up to the top spot in terms of that team standings. We will have to run the numbers once all of this chaos is over here in terms of the first couple of laps, but I'm not sure if P1 and P3 for Apex Academy is enough at the moment for them over Munster Rugby Gaming. But let's have a look at what the situation was for the race lead. That's the replay of how it happened. Bradbury didn't really fight that on too much. It was McEwen's confident move down the inside that made that pass happen and made that pass secure. But this is still looking pretty good for Academy.
Apex Racing Academy, they're going to be gaining themselves 40 points if they stay in these positions. If the things stand as they are, Munster Rugby Gaming, they only get 20 points here. That's a 20-point swing. That would put Apex Racing Academy ahead of Munster Rugby Gaming. Oh,
it changes though.
Yeah, this is going to be excitement to the very end. And Joseph Luke, we've seen good performances from Luke in the past. You know, he's been inconsistent. This is a good opportunity to get a result.
Yep, absolutely. So Apex Racing, we'll see how all the numbers fall out here. Well, once all these battles get even remotely close to being resolved here for the moment. But Luke McEwen leading the way from Ted Bradbury, from his teammate to Stanley Deslandis there in third place as well. Spets looking to try and make forward progress here. We're riding on the onboard here. With Deslandis as Bradbury spins ahead of him. Heavy impact to the barrier out of Sterling's. Deslandis is out of it, and the hopes of Apex Racing Academy as well.
Well, we thought it was a dramatic start. It's just got even worse for Apex Racing Academy. My goodness, what on earth happened there? Because you were absolutely right with that incident, that initial incident from Ted Bradbury. Is look at this, side by side through Paddock Hill Bend to the inside, and look at the dive there. There's Pete Berryman coming in and trying to get involved in this.
Yeah, because Spets and Ladd, both of them ahead of Apex Racing's Fluke drivers here at the moment. So that's all that Munster Rugby Gaming need to do. They are ahead in the points coming into the day. They extend the gap here, but they need to extend the gap as much as possible to cover off any potential points penalty Alex Spets will get from race number 1. So they can't get complacent here. Ladd and Spets need to try and get up to McEwen and potentially hope that Fluke and Berryman are having a tough time, which they are, with Luke.
Yeah, Fluke is trying all that he can to get past here, and Pete will be willing him on. Don't forget, there's 25 minutes remaining, and there it is. It broke away mid-corner for Ted Bradbury, and Deslandis was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was further contact further back as well, so Bradbury, he had nothing to lose in this race, and unfortunately, he lost pretty much it all.
Yeah, it's tragic for it to end like that for the Slanders. It's tragic for it to end like that for Apex Racing Academy. They're basically out of it in terms of team standings here at the moment. They have, that's the contact with the other wire, the Arden car, 63 out into the wall. And that was Ollie Davis. Cycled down to the very bottom of the order now. Here's another little fight. Luke holding on. Fluke knocking on the door, but no one's home at the moment. Looking to the inside for Surtees now.
I think Fluke will have a few words to say about that move across the track there. There's the cutback. You see, that's the move that you can do. Yeah, you make the move into Surtees, but look at this, absolutely wheel to wheel. No inch given between the two of them. Pete Berryman now, he's trying to follow through in all of this. Oh, it's high drama here. Fluke, contact with Luke. Luke's into the grass. They carry on, still side by side.
This is desperation on the Apex Racing team. They have to find some way to get both drivers past Joseph Luke to minimize the points delta to Monster Rugby Gaming. Even if both of them get successfully past here, they're still on points without penalties behind Monster Rugby Gaming. This is just about making sure they're close enough, potentially, should a penalty come into effect. And of course, if they get back through rather quickly, they can go chasing and try and overtake those Monster Rugby Gaming cars on merit. But Luke is not giving up the fight here. We're riding on board with Berryman. Luke going around the outside of Fluke in towards Paddock Hill Bend. We know this can end in tears. It doesn't this time around. Fluke is able to defend it. Can Berryman get passed down in towards Druids, though? That's the question. But Luke is just not content to let these guys go, is he? He wants to try and get himself up to P4 still.
Why should he? He's racing his race here. He's racing a bit on the limit. Oh, certainly on the limit of adhesion on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. This should be Berryman's move to make, and yes, but get the cutback here again. Maybe nip under, get some slipstream there from Berryman. Berryman will be speaking to Fluke, going, please, just give me all the slipstream you can. I need to get ahead of him. And yeah, he's going to back out of this one as Joseph Luke. He's got no option in that, but it's his race. He's no respecter of championships. He's got to race his own race.
Yep, absolutely. And you can see him laser focused on his, well, either a single screen ahead of him or his multiple screens in front of him. I think for most of these drivers, they will be on the triples, as they say here in sim racing. But for Joseph Luke, that was a spirited effort to try and keep two of the strongest contenders in this championship behind him. As we'll have a look, at least in terms of the gaps here. This is a rift that Fluke and Berryman will have to try and catch in now. They are 2.3 seconds behind Josh Ladd. Possible to surmount in 21 minutes, but oh boy, it's going to be difficult.
And the thing is, Luke McEwen now is all on his own there. He's got no teammate in Stanley DeSlanders, so it's an early bath for Stanley, but right now, if you're Luke McEwen, you've just got to drive the race of your life, because he has got to keep in front and stay in front there. That's all he needs to do here. Yep. And the thing is, it's the wrong Munster Rugby Gaming car that's behind him in terms of a Drivers' Championship to potentially change. So at the moment, McEwen's comfortable.
Yes. As comfortable as he can be in a final race where you're 3 points ahead of your closest competitor. A few more once we work out the points here. But McEwen looking good at the moment to take the driver's title here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. However, we cannot speak too soon. We simply cannot speak too soon. 20.5 minutes to go. Anything can happen in that time. The race has entered a little bit of a stationary period here at the moment, as we had a bit amount of separation due to that the chaos that went on in the first couple of laps there. We've got to track the progress of Fluke and Berryman. How much can they eat into that 2.3 second gap to Josh Ladd? They haven't really been able to make that many inroads, although saying that, on that previous lap, a couple of tenths of a second going the way of Jamie Fluke. However, does he have enough laps in the race to be able to make sure that rate of progress is comfortable for him?
If we knew the answer to that, we'd be rich.
I'll grab my crystal ball. I might have left it in the car.
But looking at the front there, Alexander Spetz has got the pace of his teammate Josh Ladd. Ladd, if he wants to be involved in this, and if he wants to be having the chance of winning this championship, he needs to catch up to first his teammate and then Luke McEwen as well. So McEwen, I think, is in a rather comfortable position in terms of this individual drivers' championship, but don't write out Lad just yet. But yeah, he's not quite had the pace of his teammate.
He hasn't, and this feels like the only round where he hasn't. Because every other round of this championship, it's been Lad ahead of Spets, not just in the race, but also in qualifying as well. Tables have turned though slightly. Spets has really showed up here to Brands Hatch, and he can run with Luke McEwen, it feels like, all day long. He gained over 1/10 of a second on that previous lap. So Spets, you know, if that trend continues, will be closing in on your race leader. But McEwen's concern here is any fighting with Spets will draw him back into the clutches of Lad. And coming into this race, he was only 3 points ahead of Lad. So if Lad finishes P1, McEwen P2, Lad's got the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, and here's the thing for me, though, is that Alex Spets is in a very difficult position right now because he wants to get with McEwen and slow him down for his teammate. He also wants to get the points for the team in the team's championship as well here. So it's a double thing here. He can't afford to get involved in any silly incident. McEwen just runs a little bit wide there, down towards Dingledale. But, you know, McEwen and Spets going off to the grass at Sheen as well. So they're both making mistakes. They're both on the limit here, Connery. This is what we love to see, though. We love to see people and drivers being pushed to that limit.
We've got updated points from Race Control. As things have calmed down a little, they've decided to give us a little bit of an update. As it stands, Munster Rugby Gaming lead the team's championship by 14 points over Apex Racing Team. Apex Academy third place, and I don't think that's going to change, unfortunately, with now Dislanders out of the race officially. In terms of drivers, it is confirmation. Luke McEwen leading by 13 points. And then Peter Berryman in third place, just a handful of points, 4 points behind Josh Lads. So, again, this is not impossible for either Apex Racing Team or Peter Berryman to press on forward to their individual championships. For Munster Rugby Gaming, though, how much do you commit to this P1 here? Is 14 points to gap going to be enough to cover off any potential penalty?
I think it will. I do think it will, and I think, I mean, it's no guarantee. In my opinion, it was a very, very sort of 50-50 whether it will be a penalty or not in race one. So it's no guarantee that they will get a penalty at all. I do think the Munster Rugby Gaming, they need Spets to get involved with Luke McEwen, start making some moves to slow McEwen down, to bring Lad into that. I think that's what they need to do tactically here. If they do that, it also brings Fluke and Berryman up with the rest of them as well. So meanwhile, we've seen some tremendous racing. Let's not forget there is a motor race going on for other people as well.
Yeah, we've got Sasha Fitzpatrick, P11, trying to hold off Ethan Critchley, and then we have the other prismatic driver, Bree Widener. They're down in P13 here at the moment, so not fighting for points at the moment, but we're riding on board with Critchley, who looks to be all over the back of Saoirse here, on the way across the starting grid spots, across the start line, and of course now down in towards turn number 1, Paddock Hill Bend. Critchley commits to the inside there. Is he able to get the pass done here on Fitzpatrick? Looks like he's made some good progress there into the next braking zone in Druids. Well, he's got himself cleanly ahead there.
On Ethan Critchley's view, by the way, as we've still got side-by-side action behind, Paya Peeve certainly fighting it out there for 13th place, but we saw it with Ethan Critchley's shot there. Little did you know, in the background of that shot, he had his commemorative tissues on his bedside table, because when he won his first ever race in another series, he had a cold when he came on for the interview, and somebody said he should get some tissues. So his team boss went and bought him some branded tissues.
Get yourself a team boss that buys you tissues.
Yeah,
like that's the ideal team situation there. So any drivers that are free agent at the moment, that's what you got to be looking for in terms of a team boss. We're running on board here with Bree Widener, who's currently in P14. They unfortunately lost that position to Peo Pev just a couple of moments ago. We saw it at the very, very back of the shot here. But for a team like Prismatic, they came into this season kind of thinking, well, if we score points, then that's our win, right? And that might be the case for a good couple of other teams that are towards the bottom of the order. So we got Team Sports Century Sim Racing, we got Mensa Sim Racing, who unfortunately still have not scored a point in this entire season. So they are unfortunately, it looks like going to end the season on 0 points. Here's Pio Pev now fighting it out with Sisha Fitzpatrick. Sisha gonna keep it on the inside here for Graham Hill. Bang! And drops it off the corner. Oh, well, that's
a strange one though, but coming in at a tight angle like that, you do need to just slow it down that little bit more into the Graham Hill bend, and that's what's happened. The car's just broken away. Specs has been closing up, by the way. It's worth pointing out at the front, as that's why we've cut back to this. But yeah, just that little mistake, going in a bit tighter, carrying a bit more speed, and then just the back end goes around. Well done, by the way, to Bree for they did a tremendous job there to avoid that.
Good heads-up driving there from Bree, but yeah, it's not easy to avoid incidents like that. But yeah, that's just sometimes what happens in these cars. Sometimes they get loose in the middle of the corner like that, and it's a bit of a task to try and hold on to it. We saw so many other drivers have, back end fishtailing out, especially through Surtees. Maybe not through Graham Hill Bend, but certainly through Surtees, where the rear is completely unstable. And it sometimes is a very big handful. We're having a look at our race leaders here at the moment. Luke McEwen versus Alex Spetz. How's this one going to turn out then? Because McEwen, part of Apex Racing Academy, sister team of Apex Racing Team. How much can he do to bring his sister team back into it?
I don't think he thinks about that. He's got to think about himself now. He's got to think about himself now. His teammate is out of the race, and they can't win the team's championship here unless something spectacular happens to Munster Rugby Gaming. Right now, McEwen, if I'm there in the lead, I'm just thinking about myself and my own race. Forget about anybody else. He needs to finish ahead of Lad. He doesn't need to worry about Alex, but he ideally doesn't want Alex to go past, or else Alex will start slowing him down.
Yeah, this is going to get a little complicated heading into the final 12 minutes of not only this race, but of course the entire ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship season as well. We're riding on board with Luke McEwen, current Drivers' Championship leader, current race leader as well, as you see that red and black of Alex Spetz's Monster Rugby Gaming 32 start to occupy more and more of his rear view. This is going to be a lot of pressure now that McEwen has to deal with.
Certainly is, and McEwen was, there's a little look, and that's part of building that pressure. Just making little moves, just getting the mirrors, getting the eye line. If you suddenly sort of jink or whatever, it can just capture the attention of that car in front, and that driver can then just get distracted just that little bit by that jink, and before you know it, you've caused them to make a mistake. But McEwen, incredibly talented. They will have practiced this during the week. They will have been running together as a team. The Apex Racing Team and Apex Racing Academy will have been working together and practicing defending and attacking. I've done it myself in the past with championships, and to help your teammates win a championship by practicing that pressure situation. So they will have gone through all of that, and right now Spetz is that little bit of a wild card. Does he make a move? Does he not? There's a little jink again, trying to get the eye line of Luke McEwen.
Yeah. All the tricks in the book, right? And another little look in towards the braking zone of Druids. Spetz is just throwing all of these out here for the moment. I'm having a look at the lap times. 122.605 for Luke McEwen. 122.576, at least on that last lap for Spetz. But Lad is closing in. Fluke is closing in. Yeah. This is this parking the bus time here for McEwen or not?
No. He's going all out. You can see it, and you can see in the behaviour of the car how he's driving that car. So you can't afford to park the car, because you then get out of your rhythm. Yep. You then get out of that groove that you're in, and before you know it, you start making mistakes left, right, and centre. But also the counterpoint is Spetz. If he does those little jinks too much, the driver in front then just ignores it, and it doesn't affect them at all. So you've got to be careful with that. You can't do it too much.
but then
like
you
the
can
boy,
catch them off guard, right?
It's the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, but then you can also look at it the other way. Then you can catch it off guard. You can condition them to think, oh, I'm always going to do that, and I'm not going to commit to it. And all of a sudden, I do commit to it, and just send it down the inside, and you might make a mistake in reaction. So these are all the sorts of mind games that goes on in these sorts of races, not just in sim racing, but in the real world as well. Spets taking a big wide arc, coming through Paddock Hill Bend. McEwen has to be careful not to go so wide out in towards the kitty litter out of Paddock Hill Bend, but he's fine for now in towards Druids as we ride on board with Alex Spets. This is, well, the ball's in his court here at the moment. He has no pressure whatsoever from behind. 2.5 seconds is his teammate there, back there. So he's got eyes forward, sights set on Luke McEwen. He can really dictate the pace.
Yeah, so look, but the thing is here, Josh Ladd, he's the one in terms of the Drivers' Championship who needs to be up there challenging, and he's just not doing enough here for me. We're into that final 10 minutes, we're in the final third of the race now. The tyres are feeling that effect. You'll be starting to feel that they're not biting as well as they were earlier in the race, and maybe Spets has just got that feel of the car when it's more a little bit not as pointy, shall we say, but Spets is all over. Look at this. This is a great run.
This was a great lap in general, and a few little errors there from McEwen, dipping 2 tyres into the grass coming through the middle sector. A little bit of a wider line being taken by Spets coming out onto the pit straight here will give him the benefit of a little bit more momentum, a little bit more speed, and a little bit of draft as well. Side by side for the race lead into Paddock Hill Bend here. Lap number 17 of a potential 22 here with the time that we have remaining. This time around, Spets is not able to get himself by. Well defended there by McEwen, although Alex Spets does follow very closely there for Druids.
Josh Ladd was half a second quicker that last lap than Luke McEwen, so Josh is now coming into it. This is what Spets is doing here. He is slowing down Luke McEwen by making him go defensive here. This is giving him those opportunities right now. This is where really Ladd needs to make the most of this.
Yep, he really, really does. And, well, let's see what happens here in the final 7 minutes. Because Josh Ladd is closing in, especially as Bet starts to make these repeated unsuccessful attempts in getting past McEwen. That's where a whole bunch of the time is going to be lost to Josh Ladd, but that might play straight into the hands of Spets here and the Munster Rugby Gaming. We will just have to wait and see. But this has been an incredible season so far, up until this point. Let's hope we have an incredible final 6.5 minutes here, shall we, of this finale of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship at Brands Hatch. Spets close once again, coming out of Clark Curve. Coming across the start-finish line. Again, the option might be to the outside of Paddock Hill Bend, but no overlap this time around. McEwen has been dealing with this so well.
Yeah, he's showing a real sort of mature drive as McEwen. Okay, he's had the odd little mistake here and there, but he's really putting on a strong performance at the front of the field under intense pressure. You know, this is incredible, the amount of pressure that Spets is putting McEwen under. And it's a question of now, can McEwen finish this off? 6 minutes remain in this championship, plus whatever we have once they've crossed the line. But McEwen, he's doing everything that he needs right now, and he's not, here's a key thing, he's not defending fresh air, he's not defending in the wrong places, he's doing it in the right places at the right time.
Look at Josh Ladd though, he's getting towards a second behind the leader. So less than a second to second place here. Jamie Fluke also showing a good run of speed here and setting a fastest lap of the race as well, a 1:22.185, 0.4 of a second faster than what our race leading pace is here for the moment. So is this go time for Apex Racing Team in the final 5 minutes?
I think it's pushing it a bit late. This is Spets' opportunity. He got a great run, great bit of draft to the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. It's not going to happen this time, but you could see he was closing right up to the gearbox of McEwen. But Fluke now, along with Ladd, have caught to the tail of this lead pack. Hold on tight, folks. It's edge of your seat stuff. Me and Connery, we're pacing in the commentary position here. This is absolutely nerve-wracking for us. What's it like for those drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. This, again, continues to get more dynamic, continues to get more complicated. Luke McEwen, well, his situation is rather simple, actually, in the grand scheme of things. His is finish ahead of Josh Ladd. But, you know, the context of this matters so much, because now Apex Racing Team are just directly behind in the form of Jamie Fluke. So now Ladd has to be concerned about Fluke. This changes the complexion of this a little bit, because we were expecting that, you know, if Spets was able to fight and get through, maybe if then Ladd was also able to fight and get through on McEwen, then Monster Rugby Gaming were able to orchestrate the swap to get Ladd ahead to make sure he was fine in terms of points. Now that's not as easy.
No, it's not. And time is running out for these drivers. The time is not on their side if they want to make some moves, and make some moves is what Specs is doing once again. But it's not the right move in the right place. Jamie Fluke's looking busy though. He wants to get involved with Josh Ladd. He wants to try and get ahead of him and to really mix things up with these Monster Rugby Gaming drivers.
Yeah, but he needs the help of Pierre Berryman here a little bit. Berryman still a second and a half behind to make any sort of impact in terms of team points here. But this makes it so much more closer, especially considering that Monster Rugby Gaming have a points penalty hanging over their heads from race number 1 as well. They don't know if there's going to be a penalty or how many points that penalty is. So they need to treat it like it's a massive points penalty and go for every single position possible. But will that backfire on them, considering Fluke is so close?
Oh, Fluke. Look at the intensity of Fluke's eyes. He is focused. My goodness. How close can you get in a Formula 4 car? Well, I think we've just found out without making contact. Oh, my goodness. This is absolutely just millimeters. That's all that there is with these drivers. But that shows the level of precision of these drivers. These drivers are at the top of their game right now.
They absolutely are. We are in a very precarious position in and amongst all 4 of these drivers, and who knows, Peter Berryman might get himself involved here at the very end of things as well, because they are all slowing each other down. There's the send from Jamie Fluke down the inside of Druids to try and challenge Josh Ladd. Ladd will have the inside for Graham Hillbend, which is where you want to be, but is there any cutback available? Is there any speed off the corner for Jamie Fluke then in towards Surtees? Ladd covers it off towards the inside there, but this is a tricky situation here. Coming off the corner now. Does Fluke have the run? He has a bit of slipstream.
He does have the slipstream, but he didn't have the run. He wanted to try and get cut back in a little bit earlier than what he did to try and get that run out of Surtees. It wasn't happening that time, but Fluke is showing his cards right now. He's showing his intentions, and that is to stop Josh Ladd getting that Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. There's maybe a little they could do in terms of the Teams Championship here at the moment. We'll just have to wait and see what penalties are, but we are on the penultimate lap here. We're just about to get onto our final lap of the season in the ROKiT F4 British F4 Esports Championship. Luke McEwen, Drivers' Championship leader at the moment, and, well, race leader as well. But Alex Spets might have something to say with regards to that, because he wants to get himself a race win in the books as well. And, well, he doesn't care about anyone else's championship. There's a mistake, though. A slight mistake. Awkward over the curb there for Luke McEwen. As Spets looks to go the long way around. There's a fight behind them between Ladd and Fluke as well, which can factor into this one. Ladd has the inside for Graham Hillbend. Fluke looking for the run out of the corner as well. In the background, in that Apex Racing Team car. Here they go. Battle once again in towards Surtees. Battle for the race lead, or a look for the race lead for Alex Spets there. A very optimistic one. Fluke's not going to have the run here. Coming out of the outer Surtees, coming up towards Pilgrim's Drop. 15 seconds left on the clock. Confirmation that this is the final lap. Luke McEwen trying to race for a Drivers' Championship win. Monster Rugby Gaming looking for the Teams Championship as well. They're doing good on that department, both of them here at the moment. Time has now expired. Battle for the race lead potentially. A look for the race lead from Alex Spets as they head their way through the middle sector for the final time. On the way in towards Stirling's as well. McEwen might have one hand on the Drivers' Championship trophy here. He hasn't gotten a good run out of Clark curve whatsoever. Alex Betts looks to try and go around the outside of him. Here we go, drag race to the line, and it's Luke McEwen for Apex Racing Academy that takes the Drivers' Championship. Monster Rugby Gaming behind might have just gotten the team's championship on lockdown as well.
Wow, wow, wow. My goodness. That was an absolutely incredible finish. And it almost went wrong in that penultimate corner. My goodness, Luke McEwen, take a tip of the hat from me. But it's also got to say congratulations to Munster Rugby Gaming, team's champions as well.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. That almost slipped away from McEwen. Of course, he would have had to lose the spot to Loud as well for things to affect things. Betts was less than a tenth of a second behind at the line for the race win. I'm out of breath, everyone. I think it's probably for the best that Will is going to be able to do the finishing order here. Congratulations to Luke McEwen for the Drivers' Championship. Congratulations to Munster Rugby Gaming for the teams as well. Will, I don't know how you summarise that.
It's very hard to summarise that. That was absolutely incredible. And thank you very much again to Conor Maddock and Paul Smith for commentary all evening long. And I said it could well come down to the final corner. The battle for the race lead did come down to the final corner. Look at how close these graphics are. You've got literally 1/10 of a second separating P1 and 2. You've got 2/10 of a second separating your top 4. Luke McEwen for Apex Racing Academy, then he gets the driver's title. I will say these are all provisional results, but Luke McEwen clearly the driver of the second race. Alex Bitch, second place for Munster Rugby Gaming. Third place, Josh Ladd, Munster Rugby Gaming. In terms of the team championship, it has gone their way here today. Then you've got Jamie Fluke, Peter Barrowman, P4, P5 for the Apex Racing team. It was close, but they couldn't quite get past their big rivals that have been their story all season long. So that is how it was. Fastest lap, by the way, was Jamie Fluke on lap number 19. So we are going to talk to a number of drivers. We've got some drivers from here at the Apex Hub. They're going to come up and talk to me in literally just one moment's time. Going to talk, of course, to your champion in terms of the driver's side, Luke McEwen. We're going to talk to the winning team, Munster Gaming. And it's been absolutely incredible, this championship. Paul and Connery talked about it earlier on. They said, you know, every time they work together, they end up in a situation where it comes down to a couple of points. It comes down to the final round of the championship. Well, the team's championship took a dramatic turn on the very first lap of the race. Stanley getting himself out, unfortunately, before basically he could get through the first lap. Luke McEwen at that point had to switch from team mode to driver mode. He knew basically at that point he had one championship he could win, and he went to do that. But at the same time, even though they are two separate teams, Apex Academy and Apex Racing, they still kind of were working together. Those last couple of laps, you can see Luke McEwen was trying to back up Munster Rugby Gaming into Apex to see whether or not there was a chance for them to make the pass. And, well, it almost happened. We saw the run through turn 3, turn 4. We saw Jamie Fluke trying to go round the outside. I mean, it's a very tough call to do. These Formula 4 cars, they are much smaller than what you'd have, for example, in a Formula 1 machine. The momentum can work on the outside. Just was not able to. Great offensive and great defensive driving going on across the field here. It has been an absolutely incredible event here for this, the final round of the F4 Esports British Championship presented by ROKiT. And of course, shout out to all of our sponsors, Noble Chairs as well, here today. I'm still waiting for these drivers, so this is when I've got to do the ad-libbing and the filling. They're probably half celebrating, half doing a quick debrief downstairs before they come and talk to us. But as I said, it's been absolutely incredible. And the fact that these drivers as well, for the most part, were able to keep it clean on the road, inside the track limits, that's the type of motor racing that defines British motorsport. That's the sort of racing that is right at the ethos of Motorsports UK, and I'm sure that the entire team were so glad from Motorsports UK, so glad to have a final round of the championship that actually did end up like that. I can see them now. They're ready to come and talk to me. I've not got that many smiles. It's a bit. I see a smile in the end. Jamie, come on up. It's been an interesting one here today. I'm going to talk to you first. It was so close in the end. It was. I mean, those last couple of laps. That is primetime television viewing. It just didn't go your way in the end. Talk me through it.
Yeah, the damage was done in race 1 ultimately. It was just a full send sesh at the last there. Nothing to lose. Just give it absolutely everything. Fell that far short. Frustrating.
I mean, the competition's been incredible all season, and the fact that those last couple of laps as well, it looked to be very tough racing, but it looked to be very clean racing as well. Can you take that away in terms of the fact that you have had good competition throughout the course of most of this competition? Most of it, I was going to say.
Yeah, most of it hasn't been too bad. The cars lend themselves to brilliant racing, a lot of side-by-side action, and that's what everyone wants to see. I think the series has been a success. In that regard. Sorry, I'm a bit amped up after that. I was pretty excited at the end. But yeah, mostly good.
You got Luke getting the individual championship. That's something, of course, for Apex. And 2022, it's just been a great year for you. I mean, I've commentated on you since pretty much I started this gig, over 10 years ago now. And there's some years when you guys are right up there, and I think 2022 has been one of those years you've been competing, not just in this championship, across esports. I mean, not the best way to head into the holiday season, but you still got to be overall proud of your accomplishments as a team.
Yeah, as a team, it's been phenomenal. Moving here has been a massive step up for all of us this year, and it's, I think, pushed the team onto the next level. So we're going 2023. Should be a very exciting one.
Thank you very much, Dirty. I'm going to have to kick you off the stage, bring someone else for me to talk to. I'll get Paul and Connery back in just a moment's time, and you can understand in some regards as to why Jamie was so amped up there, because the action was that close, and then we're trying to get them, that whole media idea of shoving a microphone down their throats literally as soon as they get out of the cockpit, so to say. These guys, don't forget, they do pretty much running in cockpits. It's not your standard PC and a wheel that you bolt onto a table anymore. It is fully racing cockpits. Going to get more drivers up to talk to us. Come on, it's not been the hardest of days, it's not been the easiest of days, it's been a day.
For sure. Firstly, I'd just like to say congrats to Luke. Really, really happy for Luke. I think he 100% deserved the championship. He's definitely been, in my opinion, the fastest guy all year, especially in the races. He's been pushing me a lot this year, so massive congrats to him. He definitely deserved it. Congrats to the Williams guys on the team's championship. Bit of a salty one at the same time, I feel like race 1, I think in the end we missed out by maybe 14 points, and I think 18 or 15 points for Jamie in race 1 would have got us over the line there. So I'm sure they'll not be too pleased about the crash in race 1 sort of deciding it for them. They showed up today and had really, really strong pace. I think early on we could see that they were going to be a huge challenge, and ultimately they were just a bit better in the second race there through the traffic. I think me and Jamie got held up a little bit too much than was necessary. We managed to get there in the end, but not quite the laps we needed to sort of try and work a few moves on them.
It was very, very close. Talk me through that emotion that was going on downstairs, because I was able to sneakily walk past and have a look, and you've got basically 6 rigs set up in one room, so you are all very close together. Does that help in terms of the camaraderie, the way you can talk to each other? It must get bloody hot, warm in that room as well.
Yeah, the guys have done a really good job with the AC, so that definitely helps, but it definitely gets hot in the cockpit. Obviously, you've got a lot of screens, and it is quite physical. Obviously, we're running quite high force feedback on, obviously our VRS direct drives, so it does get quite hot, but the AC, it does help quite a bit. Obviously, in terms of decision making and stuff, the colder you can be, it definitely helps to not get as flustered and things like that.
You're already talking about the 2023 season. You down for it?
Obviously sim racing is pretty busy. I'd like to come back. I think, like Jamie said, it's been quite a success. I'm sure the viewers, especially in that last race there, obviously got quite an exciting one. So, if the schedule's free, probably will be back.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and congratulations for what has been an incredible season for you as well. And, well, this is the fun of actually being able to be on site. You get to talk to some of the drivers in real life. We are going to, through the power and magic of video boards, talk to one or two more drivers in a couple of moments' time. But we're just going to show you those results back up on your screen once again. Let's get the top 10 up. And I'm going to bring Matthew and Paul, using the middle names now I am, going to bring Paul and Connery back into the conversation here as we just get ourselves reassembled on stage. And the interesting thing to note is that some of it started very, very quickly, Paul. It all then came down to the last couple of laps, and from there, pretty much anything could have happened in those last couple of laps. But despite the hard racing for pretty much the entire race, in fact the entire event here today, the racing's been very tight, the racing's been very tough, but the racing has been, for the large part, really clean.
Yeah, for the large part, I think is I don't know if Jamie quite agrees with that himself, with what happened in race one, but yeah, definitely overall it was really, really good, exciting, close racing. I mean, I said it in commentary, how close can you get to a Formula 4 car without making contact? Well, we saw it in that race. It was sensational way to finish the season.
Well, we are going to have the opportunity to talk to our drivers champion, who, of course, comes away with money and prizes from that as well. And, well, it's been another incredible, the last time us three were actually together, it was in May in Milton Keynes. And who walked away with all the prizes that day? Oh, Luke McCurran. And he's done it again. So we must be a lucky charm for them.
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah, you never know. They might invite us back if...
So if it's the three of us working on a show, Luke McCurran wins.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the Drivers' Championship, at least anyway. Go on, Connery. Let's have a chat with Luke, shall we?
Luke, it's a pleasure to speak to you again, especially after us meeting in person a couple of months ago. Drivers' Championship winner for the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. How does that title feel?
So obviously we knew that the team's championship in terms of prizes and everything is more important, but personally the Drivers' Championship is still something to be proud of, and yeah, I'm really happy. It's been really close all season with Josh and then Pete coming into it at the end. Yeah, I'm really happy to take it away. Yeah.
Just take me through those final laps of the race, knowing that even if you lost one, maybe two positions, your championship will be in tatters, and Lad would have potentially have come through and taken it. How do you navigate that situation? Because it's the last couple of laps of an entire season and you're racing like a championship depends on it, because it did.
Yeah, it was really tense. My heart was going with Alex behind. I just defending, being like over careful, because I don't want to leave a door open for Alex to go through, and then once he goes through, maybe a train of cars will go through. So just making sure that didn't happen, and yeah, it worked out in the end.
Of course, as a result of the incident between Bradbury and Deslanders, that meant that for your team, Apex Racing Academy, it meant the team's championship wasn't possible. Have you been able to speak to Stanley after the race here to try and gain his thoughts? What's kind of the mood right now?
I haven't talked to him much. I don't know, I think he had to go, but at that point, apparently, we were leading the team's championship as well. Like a 1-2 would have done it for us. So it's really frustrating for us. But yeah, once I knew that had happened, I had to focus on the drivers and trying to help out Jamie and Pete as much as possible if I can. So yeah.
So are you going to do anything in particular to try to celebrate at least a Drivers' Championship?
I don't know. Probably just take a bit of time off, to be honest.
Time off, order a pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
that might be the situation there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much. And well, we don't usually do this anymore. It used to be a thing at the end of interviews where we'd say, "Is there anyone you want to thank?" However, I think we'll make an exception for a championship winner.
Just this once.
Just this once. Is there anyone you want to thank before we move on?
Yeah, the team's done a great job. Like since I joined in September, it's been really positive. been winning a lot and helping each other. And to be honest, thank the Williams guys because they gave us a good battle. We didn't manage to win the teams in the end, but yeah, it was really good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I'll let you celebrate, order that pizza or whatever you're going to do, and just cherish this moment.
Cheers.
Thank you. And by the way, I will say I had to throw some rubbish away downstairs, and the only thing that they actually have in that bin outside are pizza boxes. So you're kind of on track. That seems to be the brand image going on around here. So next interview we got coming up then is, I believe, with Josh, and well, we get to talk about Alex. Sorry, I'm getting Alex. Just trying to get names. So many of them in my ears right now. Paul, take it away.
Well, I mean, Alex, we talked after race 1 about how you seem to have that pace and you worked really well with your teammate. Your team's champions, first of all. I mean, how does that feel for you guys?
I mean, after knocking around, I thought it was all over, to be honest. But it feels amazing that we managed to bring it home in the end. I wanted to fight Luke, but as soon as I got 11x, I couldn't risk a contact, so I had to be really careful. And then when it became a train at the end, of course, I was really scared of having a contact because that would give me a drive-through and drop him back completely. But yeah, super happy we managed it in the end.
And that is a dynamic that me and Connery were talking about. It was, how do you manage that yes, you want to get a race win there in the end and to try and get yourself a good result for yourself and hopefully help your teammate and Josh Ladd, but also how do you balance that against winning the championship? Because that last 2 corners of the championship season was, for us, it was absolutely sensational. For you, obviously not so much.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 8 or 7-8 laps, we were all normal pace, but then I started realizing Luke was going a little bit slower every lap, and it scared me up because we were dropping back a lot to the guys behind. So I really tried to go on the outside or something, but it was just too hard. And I'm happy with P2 as well. So.
Now, of course, we know that you're part of the Williams Esports crew, but you've been representing Munster Rugby Gaming. I mean, how has that partnership worked out for you guys here this season? They must be, I'm sure they'll be delighted to have a team's championship in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great result and an achievement. I'm super happy we got chosen to do the series. Josh has been a great teammate, and we have done amazing teamwork. Even when we've had limited preparation, we have maxed out everything we could, and it's been great.
Well, Alex, I mean, you had tremendous pace today. Your team's champions. Go away and celebrate this one. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
I will say one thing. He could have been a little bit happier. I know I'm going to get into trouble for saying that, but sometimes, and again, don't forget, I started this when I was talking to certain nationalities when you'd get the one-word monosyllabic answers back in the day. I mean, I have to say, the way that teams prepare and they conduct interviews, it's a much improvement over the last decade. But you could tell there was excitement, but also I think fatigue there, Paul, more than anything else.
Yeah, mental fatigue, I would say, would be a big one, and I think that's something that people don't really appreciate, is the level of mental concentration that you have to keep up in sim racing, and especially when you're so close to a race win and a race leader, it takes it out of you at the end of a race and at the end of a championship as well. And
the thing is, Connery, from that interview, the thing I gathered the most is when it all got that close on those last couple of laps, just one more contact car to car, that would have actually lost them the championship. That's how close it was. Yeah, and obviously we don't get a live readout of how many incident points each driver has in the race, so that information was completely hidden from us. But yeah, that would have been dramatic. We saw in the last lap or the last 2 laps a car peel off onto the pit lane and all of a sudden Munster Rugby Gaming's lost the championship. Yeah. That would have been peak drama. But we've already had a lot of drama in the race. I think if we had a bit more, it would overload us. I think you would have shaken the foundations of this building down. Let's just say I'm glad that headphones have locking connectors on them, because I accidentally wrapped one around my knee and I sort of crouched down and I pulled it and I almost pulled my headset off. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good. God bless XLR. Right, let's have a chat then. Josh Ladd. Josh, I'm hoping you can hear me. It's been an incredible season for you, incredible season for the team. You come home with the team championship, the $2.5 grand that comes with that, and of course, the 2 days fully spent in Pure Simulator. You've got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, really amazing. It's been a pretty tough championship. We had some low rounds, like where we've been a bit off pace, like Snetterton, but we prepared massively for this race, and to see it pay off with 2 great results was amazing. And yeah, Alex has been a great teammate. We communicated perfectly, especially in that last race where it was going to get a bit stressful at the end. But yeah, we did great. Really happy with it.
We were just talking about how one more incident, set of incident points for Alex would have meant a, drive through pit road, you losing the championship. How close were you to the incident limit, and how mindful were you of the Apex drivers behind you and needing to keep that action fierce, competitive, but clean?
I think I have 5 until Jamie caught me. He gave me I don't know if he gave me, but we got a 4x together. So I had 9, but that still gave me a buffer to get another 4x, so it was okay. But yeah, my main focus was to keep the Apex guys behind me to protect Alex with his instance. Because I could have dropped behind him and I think we could have still won the championship, but with Alex's incidents it would have been pretty tough having 3 Apex cars around him. And yeah, we saw how the incidents can really change it with Ted in the first race of the championship. Last lap having a penalty from the lead, so what goes around could have come around.
And thinking about the way that you, of course, full time in terms of Williams, but in terms of Manchester Rugby Gaming and how you've been able to rep them over the course of this season. How has it been working in, different coloured liveries? I'm not used to in a car that's got red and pink and that sort of stuff on it.
Yeah, it's great to represent a brand like Munster. The paint looks pretty cool, so that's just a bonus, I guess.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us here this evening. Thank you very much again for all your work and your competition throughout the championship. Absolutely great to talk to you. And having a look at the clock and all the buzzing that I've got going on from multiple devices right now, I think it's that time of the night where I'm going to have to ask you just for some final thoughts. And I'll start with you for this one, Connery.
Well, it's in some ways difficult to sum up the season because we had so much drama, we had so much action throughout. I said during that final race there, this is one of the best championships I've ever had the pleasure of commentating on, and that is true. And over the years I've been able to do a lot. So that really shows how the drivers have really taken this series to heart, and they've really put in their best effort. We saw that with the racecraft that we had as well. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We've got Noble Chairs, got to get one last plug in for them. Also, we've also got other sponsors, title sponsor ROKiT, you got Simucube, you got VRRC, Base Performance Simulators, WSR as well. See, I'm reading a script, basically.
You are reading my script.
But yeah, in terms of an overall thoughts on the season, all I can say is I can't wait for season 2.
Paul?
I mean, I've almost been sort of on the substitutes bench waiting for my go. I was there for Knockhill round where we had all sorts of drama happen in that one. And then to come here for this championship finale, I mean, what better drama could you have on a Friday evening? Forget your soap operas. We had a better soap opera on display out there on track. It was tremendous stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed myself covering this one here today, and long may it continue is what I say.
And I've just had it in my ear. We're going from one pool to another pool. The ironic thing is, he's only about 5 meters away from me in the next room. However, I've just got that feeling. Yeah. Oh, so he is going to come and do it in person. I'm just going to get in my ear. And okay. So what I have to do at this point is I have to kick Connery out of the room. It's really sorry, Connery, but thank you very much for all the work you've done throughout the course of the season.
My work here is
This
done.
is when things start degenerating at a massive rate of knots. And Paul, you've been looking at this all day. Yeah. Come and have a seat on this fantastic Noble chair.
Thank you.
So now you can see why we've been plugging it all day.
Oh, yes. Lovely.
And, well, season 1 officially in the books. How was it for you?
Yeah, that last race was, I'd like to say enjoyable, but from my point of view was pretty stressful. Obviously, we don't want any incidents to have to review for the final lap, and honestly, the racing in that last race was amazing, and I think across the whole championship it was. Knock Hill was kind of an anomaly, but that track is known for certain things. But other than that, it's been really good, and we've been really happy with how the championship's gone.
Been a big year for Motorsports UK and Esports sim racing. Getting this first major championship done and under the belt, how has it kind of motivated you for investment, and how do you think it will help others see investment in Motorsports UK and Esports moving forward as maybe even a new opportunity to get young kids into motorsports in a way that we all know with the current climate can be more and more difficult?
Yeah, exactly, and we've done this year as kind of a halo, kind of the very pinnacle of what we're doing, because it's quite easy to get off the ground. But yeah, we're looking at kind of a pathway for esports for young talent, coming all the way up through to things like this championship and the FIA Motorsport Games and things like that, representing the UK. So that's something that we want to develop, and I think doing this kind of proves the concept that having Motorsport UK involved in esports is a good thing. We're coming in as a governing body, which some might see as, oh, here we go, here come the fun police. But we're definitely not, looking to implement licenses and permits and things like that. We want to help nurture the industry. We want to help kind of professionalise it in areas. Some people don't want that, which is fine. You carry on doing what you're doing. But we want to help nurture it all, and that includes kind of young talent. So watch this space in terms of support races for this, and also kind of feeder series as well in the future for younger ages.
And final question, you're going to start thinking about the 2023 championship at some point. Any major changes you think you'd do after this season, or are you happy with the way that the format and the way that it's been run?
I think overall the format has been good. I think it will only be kind of tweaks in that sense. I think the main difference will be some form of, hopefully, support race or feeder series where it's a lot lower barrier to entry, with potentially like a winning team winning a free space on the grid of the main championship, something like that. So again, it's starting to build up that pathway of kind of competition, which is lacking in esports at the minute. There's no kind of defined, okay, well, if you want to become professional, you should do these. It's very much just grind on whatever you do, whereas we want to try and help that.
And that also gets people to learn other cars and understand the differences between them as well, which I think will be really important. Because, again, you can be a specialist in one car but absolutely suck in others, whereas the development stage, that way you get to understand how cars change, and you add in aerodynamics, and you add in different engines, different tyres, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're not just going to be doing F4, and that's across the things that we're going to do professionally, but also the community side. So this is an officially sanctioned British Championship, and we want to be doing that across different platforms and disciplines as well. And obviously, if we have a feeder or support series, we'd look to do it in different cars as well. So again, it's replicating the real world in some sense, but also kind of leaning into the pros of esports racing and sim racing.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for doing the entire championship as well. Thank you for Motorsport UK and their investment in this. I mean, it's great to have more and more bodies involved in esports in terms of different championships. It's been great to see the change over the last, 4 or 5 years, and how it's developed and how you're getting more and more people, more and more organisations involved. So thank you to Motorsports UK for organising this championship. Also, a massive shout out to our title sponsor, ROKiT, to Simucube, for base performance simulators, VRRC, World Sim Racing, and of course, good old Noble Chairs. You've got until 9 AM UTC on Monday the 5th of December to go look at the link in the description. You can then basically go and enter yourself in to win one of these in time for Christmas. I'm going to see if I can sneak one out and put it into the back of my car before anyone notices. It's a 2-hour drive home. They'll have to try and catch me up. But massive shout out to, of course, all the people working behind the scenes here at this fantastic facility in Corby. Thank you so much much to the Apex Racing team and Apex TV. Thank you, of course, also to Dane working behind the scenes, to Lee, to Alex helping set up. The guy in Brazil, Hugo, we always love you. We always thank you for your incredible work that you do. And of course, to Connery Maddock and to Paul Smith for their awesome talent on the microphones here today. And with that, well, it's going to say goodnight. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much for your conversation throughout the course of this championship. My name's Will Vincent. Good night from Corby.